In Naruto, I start with a Seireitei. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction. So don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 101 Update Time. My lumbar disc herniation has flared up these past few days, making it difficult to sit or stand. Typing feels like needles are pricking my tailbone. I'm too exhausted to release 2 updates this morning. I'll adjust the update time and release both updates together at 5 p.m. from now on. Chapter 102 The Happy Troubles of the Mastermind. There's still one Uchiha who escaped the net. Should we kill him? Hisoka pursed his lips, revealing a neurotic smile. Even faster than his words, a playing card slipped from his sleeve and flicked towards Toby's throat. Toby's thoughts were interrupted. A vortex of intangible energy formed around his neck, engulfing the playing card. He stared speechlessly at Hisoka's suddenly morbidly excited expression. Wait, Itachi Uchiha just recommended you to join Akatsuki, and then you launched a playing card at me? Is this guy out of his mind? While Toby intangibly dodged the playing card, he glanced at his clansman. The latter, instead of explaining, stared blankly at Denzo Shimura's gouged-out eyeball, then expressionlessly glanced up at Hisoka, his Mangekyou Sharingan flashing with an evil light as it stared at him. Was he tempted by Hisoka's suggestion? Afei immediately saw the malice in Itachi Uchiha's eyes, the look of someone addicted to slaughtering his entire clan. His heart sank, and he felt a surge of anger and shame. Today was a strange day. People kept trying to take his life. Of course, they couldn't succeed, but Afei felt his dignity and prestige as the mastermind had been repeatedly trampled upon today. Afei's face beneath his mask darkened, and a hoarse, sinister laugh escaped his throat. He vanished from his spot in an instant, reappearing eerily behind Hisoka. 2 chains emerged silently from the vortex, twitching and wrapping around Hisoka's neck. Without turning his head, Hisoka leaned back and fell into Afei's arms. At the same time, bone spurs suddenly erupted from his back, jagged like blooming thorns, aiming for Afei's heart. Corpse bone pulse? A fine sheen of goosebumps rose on Afei's chest. A vortex twisted and vanished from its spot. Hisoka's body bent vertically backward, flicking 2 fingers upward to shoot several thin threads that stuck to the chain, pulling it towards his hand. As the vortex reappeared on the other side, Afei emerged, and a black, muddy figure crawled out from the ground. A pitch-black wooden spike silently pierced Hisoka's back. Insidious, ruthless, like a venomous snake emerging from the earth. Hisoka's body half stopped, his joints clicking like a grotesque puppet. His entire body shifted half a meter away from the ground, while his right arm twisted backward, swinging towards Black Zetsu. Thud. Sizzle. The wooden spike, sharp as a knife, severed Hisoka's arm. Blood spurted from the severed arm, yet it seemed to be under control, springing out and crushing half a pitcher plant, smashing it hard against Black Zetsu's face. Black Zetsu fell backward, while Hisoka straightened his back, his severed arm dangling at his side, his face remaining expressionless, instead excitedly exhaling a pink bubble. Wait a minute, we're all on the same side. Itachi Uchiha seemed to realize at this moment that everyone should be members of Akatsuki in the future. There was no need to make things so unpleasant upon meeting. What's going on? Black Zetsu got up from the ground, shook off the dirt, his eyes fixed on the severed head in Itachi Uchiha's hand, while asking, Toby, gave Black Zetsu a few words of explanation, rather speechless. On the same side, huh? What a pity. Hisoka licked his lips with a hint of unsatisfaction, his shoulder twitched slightly, and the half of his arm that had fallen to the ground shot back, sticking back to the severed arm in a strange joint. Without even a trace of a scar. Hisoka moved his shoulder and rotated his arm, deliberately showing them. Clearly the arm stitching was very successful. Toby, Black Zetsu, and Itachi Uchiha all involuntarily glanced at Hisoka's reattached arm a few more times, each muttering to themselves. It's like the arm was glued back on. What a strange ability. Toby was somewhat envious of Hisoka's ability. There are very fine, invisible threads manipulating the arm, treating the body like a puppet. It's somewhat similar to Sasori's methods, but his body shows no signs of modification. It's very eerie. Black Zetsu sorted out the situation in his mind, acknowledging that both Hisoka and Itachi Uchiha had the potential to join the Akatsuki. It's not entirely Shikatsu Myaku, nor entirely puppetry. Hisoka is indeed extraordinary, he truly deserves the title of magician. Itachi Uchiha thought silently, though he wasn't sure if this was Hisoka's full power. A brief silence followed. Since you killed Shimura Danzo and have Itachi Uchiha's guarantee and recommendation, we are, in principle, willing to accept you into the Akatsuki. Black Zetsu broke the silence first, then changed the subject. After we report back to the Akatsuki leader, you can become trainee members. Trainee members? Hisoka asked with interest. Itachi Uchiha listened silently. He wasn't a man who easily expressed his opinions. We naturally acknowledge your strength, but the organization has its procedures and rules. To become a full member, you still need to pass a test. Black Zetsu said. What test? Hisoka became even more interested. He had a premonition that this test might be related to him. Of course, not his current appearance, but his other identity. It felt like the Akatsuki was going to make a move against the Gotei 13. How exciting. Black Zetsu observed Hisoka's expression and demeanor, gaining a preliminary understanding of the man's personality traits. The organization will arrange testing tasks for you later. I will inform you of the time and place separately. Don't worry, you won't have to wait too long. Black Zetsu exchanged contact information with Hisoka and Itachi Uchiha, then left with Toby, and disappeared from their sight. I thought we could go directly? I didn't expect that we'd need another ticket after the first one. This is getting more and more interesting. Hisoka wasn't annoyed at all, instead, he was eagerly anticipating the test. If you're interested, that's good. Itachi Uchiha left carrying Danzo Shimura's head, never asking where the eye in that head went or what happened in Konoha afterward, as if he truly didn't care about anything. Of course. Hisoka beamed. He was extremely looking forward to what kind of testing task the Akatsuki would arrange for him, and even more so, he was looking forward to joining the Akatsuki's daily life after passing the test. It would definitely be very fulfilling and interesting. The leaks in that field should all be right by now. I need to create more trouble outside so that the Akatsuki's testing mission can come sooner. Hisoka's motivation to create a script suddenly surfaced in his mind. It wasn't that he underestimated Black Zetsu, but if he didn't deliberately cause trouble outside, even if he had 10,000 years, he wouldn't be able to find any trace of the demons, let alone the 13 Gotei 13. Black Zetsu should have taken the scroll I left for him. The reason I deliberately revealed the time as 1,000 years in the demon legend was to make Black Zetsu convinced that the legend was false. Now he should be rushing around the world looking for another mastermind. If he's smart enough, he should be able to sense the subtle connection between the 13 Gotei 13 and the demons. Then I'll have many choices. I can give him clues about the 13 Gotei 13, or I can give him traces of the demons. In the end, he'll have to take the bait. Which script should I choose? Hisoka, director Kaguya Nami, the main character, is caught in a happy dilemma. Sometimes having too many scripts to create is also a problem. He decides to put this problem aside and return to Kusagakure to unseal the captain's seal and relieve the pressure of script writing. Chapter 103 Who is the mastermind behind this? In the gloomy, lush forest, Black Zetsu and Toby reappeared, watching Itachi and Hisoka's departing figures for a long while before exchanging a glance. Black Zetsu, you've been too lax lately. Your intelligence gathering is incredibly slow. A madman who could kill Shimura Danzo and Konoha? And more importantly, who actually dared to do it? Why have I never heard of such a person before? It's like he just appeared out of thin air. Toby preemptively questioned Black Zetsu, feeling the need to reprimand his subordinate's work ethic as the mastermind. Black Zetsu reluctantly admitted his mistake. As the true mastermind, he needed to lower his stance before his puppet. We can leave the issue of Hisoka the magician for now. From your description, he's just a lunatic with mental problems. There are plenty of people like that in the organization. Actually, once you understand his nature, he's very easy to manipulate later. The problem now is. Black Zetsu carefully crafted his words, telling Afei all the conclusions he had discovered and speculated about in Konoha. That's the general situation. There are still some details that need to be investigated and organized later, but in short, there's a mastermind behind the scenes in the ninja world, manipulating things to achieve his ulterior motives. We need to be careful. A mastermind, Fei, was shocked, his heart filled with mixed feelings, and his mask almost fell off. Is it that scary? Are you sure you're not just imagining things? This ninja world is too crazy. Besides himself, there are other masterminds behind the scenes. Yes, the hollow feed monster incident in Kirigakure and the legend of the demon in Konoha this time, both coincidentally have the shadow of the Gotei 13 behind them. This is definitely not a coincidence. I suspect that everything is being manipulated and fabricated by the Gotei 13 in the dark. Black Zetsu said with certainty. Fei couldn't accept it for a moment. There were other hidden masterminds in the ninja world? He scratched his head and asked Black Zetsu very seriously, these are all your speculations. Is it possible they were just coincidences, not fabrications, and that the Gotei 13 and demons are real? Black Zetsu felt a tightness in his chest. He knew he shouldn't have placed his hopes on Fei's intelligence, but he couldn't reveal his true identity. He could only painstakingly persuade Fei to reluctantly believe his judgment. Okay, then according to your judgment, the Gotei 13 are most likely the mastermind. What is their purpose in fabricating demons? Fei followed Black Zetsu's train of thought, racking his brains, but he was completely clueless. Creating a new world where demons eat people? This isn't just causing suffering to the world, it's utterly destroying it. He wondered if Nagato would even understand. The key point was that, according to Black Zetsu's observations, the Gotei 13 not only fabricated the legend of demons but also created their physical forms. That makes it difficult to accuse them of lying. We don't know for now. The answer to this question can only be obtained from the Gotei 13 or the demon. What we can confirm now is that the danger level of this organization is probably much higher than we anticipated. In fact, we can say that the existence of this organization and what they are doing may seriously affect or even hinder our plans in the future. Black Zetsu's ominous premonition grew stronger. From initial disdain, to slight concern, to extreme vigilance, and even intense fear, Black Zetsu's emotional journey was so rapid that even he himself couldn't believe it. Similarly, this further illustrates the danger level of the Gotei 13 and the mastermind behind it all. They are truly cunning, their methods are truly terrifying, and their ability to fabricate lies is something I'm ashamed of. Fortunately, I intercepted the scroll he left for Konoha, which prevented the mastermind's plan from being fully implemented. Will this hinder the Eye of the Moon plan? Abi sensed the gravity of the situation. He frowned and growled, in that case, to ensure the plan can be implemented smoothly, we must return to Akatsuki and persuade Nagato to eliminate this organization first. That's right, and it's urgent. Black Zetsu nodded in agreement. We can't delay any longer. If this organization continues to exist, I'm worried they'll cause even bigger trouble and lies, thus changing the entire ninja world's landscape. The variables encountered in the Eye of the Moon plan will become increasingly greater. Abi's eyes were filled with chilling killing intent. Before they cause even greater harm, we must find and eliminate this mastermind. The ninja world only needs one mastermind like us. That's right. Black Zetsu grinned maliciously. The Gotei 13, the demons, and the mastermind behind all this had already been added to his death list. We've already planned the future of the ninja world, there's no room for any other mastermind. Black Zetsu, the embodiment of Madara Uchiha's will, and Tobi, Madara Uchiha himself, reached a consensus. Madara Uchiha lay quietly in the coffin. By the way, you mentioned earlier that the box of Elysium was opened by Hisoka. Could there be a connection between Hisoka and the Gotei 13? Tobi began to suspect this Akatsuki apprentice. After all, the box of Elysium was a crucial part of the legend of the demons, and the one who opened it might not be unaware of the inside story. It shouldn't be. I witnessed the opening of the box of Elysium firsthand. Kusagakure and Konoha were likely deceived, and Hisoka was merely a chosen tool. His behavior was that of a curious and ignorant madman. Black Zetsu, judging others by his own standards, didn't believe any mastermind would allow such a madman to know the inside story and participate in the deception. Letting him be a clueless puppet, guided and manipulated in the process, was the wise and prudent approach. Fei considered Hisoka's act of shooting playing cards upon meeting him and agreed with Black Zetsu's assessment. This was similar to how he could secretly contact Kisame Hoshigaki and develop him into an informant long ago, but would never utter a single word to a madman like Deidara with his erratic thinking. Deidara, a madman who constantly proclaimed that art is an explosion, was a new member recruited by Conan during this period. Afei only met him once before immediately abandoning the idea of developing him into an informant within Akatsuki. This kind of madman with an erratic thinking couldn't be given any secrets. The best thing to do was manipulate him from behind the scenes to be cannon fodder, making him sacrifice himself for his art or interests. After this brief encounter, Afei and Black Zetsu had already hastily categorized Hisoka as a madman. The only difference was that Deidara would likely sacrifice himself for art, while Hisoka would probably die from his curiosity and interest someday in the future. Afei and Black Zetsu believed this. Meanwhile, Hisoka, completely unaware that he was being scorned by the other masterminds and categorized as an ignorant madman, was hiding in a secluded corner, quietly tearing apart the return scroll in his hand. This return scroll didn't include Mayuri Kuratsuchi's lighting effects, nor did it feature a sudden black light descending from the sky. Instead, a faint, transparent beam of light enveloped him, and Hisoka vanished from the spot. Although he wasn't in a hurry, Hisoka didn't choose to save a scroll, opting instead to return to Kusagakura as quickly as possible. After all, every minute he wasted here meant another minute of anguish and loneliness for the squad leader waiting to be unsealed. The beam of light disappeared, and when he opened his eyes again, Hisoka was back on the top floor of Hazuki Castle. On the empty rooftop, Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi had changed back into their black and white Shinigami uniforms. Satoru Hanafuro and Nanami Oni were removing two corpses from the freezer and laying them across the floor. The clone Kaguya Nami stood by, waiting boredly. Although the clone is another completely identical version of himself, sharing thoughts and abilities, and even having experience in completing missions, the clone can only enjoy the experience gained from mission bonuses, not the actual cheat code itself. In other words, while the clone can use the cheat code to draw prizes and unlock squad leaders, only the original can truly use the various privileges granted by the cheat code. The original Hisoka took the wet wipe from Mayuri Kuratsuchi's face, wiping away the blood and dust, then his facial muscles twitched, restoring him to Kaguya Nami's original appearance. The two identical Kaguya Nami exchanged a smile, communicating privately in their minds, tallying the mission achievements. Tonight, various subtitle prompts had repeatedly appeared on his retina, but Kaguya Nami hadn't had time to look at them. Now, he was going through them in his mind like replaying a recording. Of course, he only glanced at most of the completed missions or achievements, not paying much attention to the explanations and evaluations of the missions. Those were just annotations from the cheat code, not very meaningful. He was focused on the statistics and distribution of achievement points. The story begins with the opening ceremony of the Forest of Death. Kaguya Nami schemes through the subtitles, which increase as she progresses, especially towards the end of the evening. Subtitles frequently flash by, mostly ignored by her at the time. Now, she quickly reviews them, pausing only on a few key ones. These key subtitles are: Event, Debt Collection, Completed, Settlement. 1. All members of the Konoha team were eliminated, earning 4,800 achievement points. Based on a 130% settlement, the final achievement points are 6,240. 2. A total of 23 root members were seriously injured or killed, and Shimura Danzo was killed, earning a total of 9,600 achievement points. Final total achievement points: 15,840. P.S. The Chunin exams were interrupted due to unforeseen circumstances. Achievement rewards are now being settled and distributed. This single incident brought Kaguya Nami a staggering 15,840 yen, the highest single item value he had ever received. He had to express his heartfelt gratitude to Shimura Danzo. A rare pang of guilt and regret welled up within Kaguya Nami. What a generous and kind old man. How could he have been so foolish as to sell him to Uchiha Itachi? This was a priceless old leek, exchanged for a mere ticket to the Akatsuki, a huge loss. Kaguya Nami felt a throbbing pain of regret coursing through all 7 of his hearts. Fortunately, he found some solace in the fact that the Akatsuki was likely a fertile ground for leeks, a metaphor for easily exploited individuals, and besides, the root organization was still a viable leek field. He had made proper arrangements for the successor to the Dark Lord of the Ninja World, and the future remained promising. Almost forgot, Shimura Danzo also contributed a legendary Mangekyo Sharingan to himself. Although the Sharingan's power is currently on cooldown, such minor issues can be resolved later. Besides this, Shimura Danzo also contributed an arm riddled with eye sockets, thus also completing another achievement for Kaguya Nami. You have obtained your 5th collectible, a special arm, current event, Artist's Collection Exhibition, 5/6, Event Settlement. This collectible grants you 8,000 achievement points, so, Kaguya Nami now possesses 5 art collectibles, a Byakugan, or Ichimaru's Remains, the Box of Elysium, the Uchiha Legacy, and the special arm. Shimura Danzo played a crucial role in the contributions to collectibles 4 and 5. Kaguya Nami sighed deeply, reminding herself that next time she encountered Uchiha Itachi, she must remember to ask him what happened to Shimura Danzo's head. She'd have to visit his grave sometime to pay her respects. Another important event was Chunin exams. This event has a high impact coefficient, calculated using a pentagonal method. Settlement. You played both positive and negative roles in this event, demonstrating the high-level skills of a mastermind. Black 90, Dirty 80, Lies 99, Falsehood 91, Insidious 91. Conclusion. You established a dual persona. Your heart is unfathomable. Your lying skills are astonishing. You even designed and sculpted a legend, then disguised yourself like a plastic surgery. Your manipulation of people's hearts is hidden throughout the script. You are a mastermind who puts immense pressure on your peers. Score. 451. Event Impact Coefficient. Due to the combined impact of the Uchiha Clan massacre and the Box of Elysium story, the impact coefficient of this event has significantly increased to 11. Final score. 45,111 equals 4,961. Other missions and events didn't offer as many rewards, but even added together, the achievement rewards were still a considerable sum. What particularly caught Kaguya Nami's attention was the progress on the important historical event, the glory of the Seireitei, which jumped to 14.7%. Several items in the drop-down menu were completed, but the most important was proof of history, with detailed annotations added to the box of paradise and demons in the postscript. This meant that Kaguya Nami's fabricated story had received full approval from the cheat system. It wasn't fake, but officially certified. One day, through her own efforts, these would become a real part of the ninja world's history. In short, Kaguya Nami currently possessed an astonishing 53,742 achievement points. An unprecedented fortune, the glittering light of the ghost money almost blinded her. In addition, he also possesses a 50% off coupon, as well as 2 fresh, high-quality corpses, a man and a woman. Following the annoyance of having too many scripts, Kaguya Nami is now forced into a dilemma of sudden wealth. Should she unseal the 2 squad leaders, or directly unseal the captain commander? It's a difficult choice. P.S. Unseal of squad leaders tomorrow. Chapter 104 Unsealing the Captain. 1st Division Captain Yamamoto Jinryusei Shigekuni, the highest commander of the Gotei 13, founder and first principal of the Shinigami Academy, possessing absolute authority in Soul Society. His life is almost synonymous with a history of the Seireitei, and he is known as the strongest Shinigami in Soul Society. Unsealing requires 62,085,000 points. With her current achievement points and a 50% discount coupon, Kaguya Nami has met the unsealing requirements for all the division captains except for Aizen Sasuke, the man with a question mark above his head. Unsealing the captain commander and sweeping through the entire ninja world? Kaguya Nami abandoned this tempting idea. It didn't fit the script she had designed for the ninja world. The current ninja world couldn't afford the old man's appearance fee and salary. Moreover, the expansion for the ninja world has only just reached the Demon Saga. Hueco Mundo hasn't been unsealed yet, the Espada haven't escaped, and the curse hasn't even been born. There are still many years to go before the world falls into its deepest despair, before the entire ninja world prays for the Seireitei to descend and save it. At this moment, the Seireitei should be perched high in the clouds, coldly and indifferently overlooking the world. Its occasional walks in the mortal realm should be like fleeting shadows, elusive and difficult to see. How could a godlike figure like the Captain Commander possibly descend so easily? As the director of the ninja world, Kaguya Nami must ensure all actors perform according to the script, not forcibly change the script for the sake of a single character's appearance. Furthermore, whether the Captain Commander will acknowledge my identity as the Soul King and recognize that my current actions are in accordance with the principles of justice is unknown. After careful and comprehensive consideration, Kaguya Nami decided to proceed with the original plan to unseal the 2 squad leaders to supplement the roles in the subsequent scenes. The first character to be unsealed, Unhanaritsu. Under the watchful eyes of Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi, Kaguya Nami walked to the body of Uchiha Mikado, stroked the corpse, and softly murmured, "Unsealed, found a fresh corpse, 8,000 achievement points can be converted, used a 50% off coupon, final total achievement points paid. 20,000, the original body possesses a special bloodline limit, retain it, retain, ghost body modification in progress, character unsealed, Unhanaritsu, you have gained the loyalty of Unhanaritsu, captain of the 4th Division of the Gotei 13, P.S., under the constraints of the cheat, this character cannot betray in any form, the 50% off coupon and 20,000 achievement points have been used up, leaving 29,742 achievement points in Uchiha Fugaku's corpse. Next, this squad leader can only be unsealed at the original price. Fortunately, the value of Uchiha Fugaku's corpse is relatively high. Kaguya Nami touched another male corpse without pausing and murmured, "Unseal, found a fresh corpse, worth 12,000 achievement points, final total achievement points paid. 24,000, the original body possesses a special bloodline limit. Do you want to retain it, ghost body modification in progress, character unsealed, Kuchiki Byakuya, you have gained the loyalty of Kuchiki Byakuya, the captain of the 6th Division of the Gotei 13, P.S., under the constraints of the cheat. This character cannot betray in any form, the captain of the 4th Division, Unhanaritsu, and the captain of the 6th Division, Kuchiki Byakuya, are the two squad leaders that Kaguya Nami chose to unseal this time. Ritsu Unahana, originally named Yachiru Unahana, she was the first Shinigami to hold the title Kenpachi, Sword 8. Once known as the most evil in Soul Society, she boasted of mastering all sword styles and techniques, finding pleasure in slaughter. She was later defeated by the captain commander and recruited into his ranks. Now the captain of the 4th Division, her personality is completely different from before, gentle and compassionate, at least on the surface. Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi unanimously agree that Ritsu Unahana is as terrifying and bloodthirsty as she is in battle. When Gin Ichimaru talks about Ritsu Unahana, his smiling face stiffens and becomes unnatural for a moment despite his gentle words. Mayuri Kuratsuchi shudders genuinely and mutters to Nami Kaguya, "Don't be deceived by Ritsu Unahana's appearance, I've always suspected that two souls reside within her body." After hearing Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi's evaluations, Kaguya Nami became even more convinced that Ritsu Unahana was the captain she needed. What could be more fitting for the Gotei 13 than a gentle demeanor? She had given up on Gin and Mayuri's villainous smiles. If they weren't so unsuitable, they should have been relegated to the ranks of demons. The other captain, Byakuya Kuchiki, was the 6th captain of the Gotei 13 and the 28th head of the Kuchiki family, one of the 4 great noble families. His words and actions exuded the air of an ancient nobleman, always presenting a cold face. In stark contrast to Ritsu Unahana's gentle appearance, Byakuya Kuchiki perfectly embodied all the characteristics of a cold and ruthless individual. These two contrasting personas perfectly complemented the righteous noble image of the Gotei 13, and Kaguya Nami had carefully considered her decision to unseal these two captains. Furthermore, Kaguya Nami's decision to unseal Kuchiki Byakuya at this moment had another purpose. There's a famous scene in the original Bleach manga that director Kaguya planned to recreate and bring to the ninja world stage. She had already planted the seeds for this scene in Konoha, and according to her prediction, Konoha would soon follow this lead and stage the scene she wanted. And for the protagonist of this scene, she naturally chose the original protagonist, Kuchiki Byakuya. To this end, Kaguya Nami glanced at her remaining achievement points and decided to unseal the supporting male character, Abare Renji, later as well. After all, the Seireitei's forces had expanded to 4 squad leaders, and their high-level combat power was almost sufficient to maintain the facade. Therefore, it was time to put the remaining configurations of each squad on the agenda and complete them step by step. She couldn't let others mistakenly believe that the Gotei 13 only had 13 squad leaders without any real power. That wouldn't be befit the status of a squad leader, nor the glory of the Seireitei. The ancient Seireitei, high above the clouds, couldn't possibly contain only a lone squad leader. It must be a colossal structure that covers the sky, an endless complex of buildings and countless black-clad grim reapers, a reflection of an entire world. Kaguya Nami envisioned the grand blueprint she had woven for Seireitei. Like assembling building blocks, but these blocks were pieced together bit by bit from nothingness above the clouds, until one day, The beings below could glimpse the colossal shadow reflected in the clouds. That scene would surely be breathtaking. Now, 4 squad leaders stood atop the clouds. Oh, and let's not forget Aiz and Sasuke. 5 squad leaders had already been unsealed and awakened in the mortal world. Unohana, Ritsu and Kachiki Byakuya simultaneously opened their eyes, gazing at this unfamiliar new world that would inevitably belong to Seireitei in history. Welcome back to the real world, Kaguya Nami said, opening her arms wide and enunciating each word clearly. Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi stood behind her and echoed in unison. P.S. Can you guess which famous scene this is? Thanks to One-Legged One-Eyed Cat for the 10,000 coin reward, and thanks to Elegant New Driver for the 100 coin reward. P.S. Only one update today. My back hurts so much that my legs are numb and I can't sit still anymore. I'm a little panicked and need to go to the hospital. Chapter 105 Awakening, Lottery. A cold night wind swept through the air. A pale white houri danced in the breeze, a long black robe hung silently, and a sword slung across the waist radiated a chilling aura. A terrifying spiritual pressure emanated from the artificial bodies, and the 2 squad leaders were awakened from their slumber, opening their eyes to the world. Their crimson and jet-black Sharingan eyes spun wildly, then were silently swallowed by the pale white that surfaced beneath, revealing the original shape and color of their pupils, with only a narrow red line remaining at the center of each iris. It was as if the evil power of their eyes was imprisoned at the base of their pupils, so that it was not revealed on the surface. Gentle compassion and the coldness of order are both the manifestations of justice. How could they be tainted by the evil Sharingan? The 2 bodies beneath the black robes came to life, simultaneously retracting the gifts of the Sharingan and concealing them within their eyes. The Sharingan, the eye that reflects the soul, its power derived from the depths of a sinful soul. But the 2 squad leaders were true masters of manipulating souls. If they didn't want to, the Sharingan couldn't extract a single ounce of power from their souls. Switching the Sharingan on and off was entirely at their whim, a matter of a single thought. Unohana Ritsu blinked, slowly tying her long hair into 2 braids that hung down her chest, before revealing a gentle, serene smile and bowing slightly to Kaguya Nami. Kachiki Byakuya's black hair was bound with a sash, a silver-white scarf wrapped around his neck, and fingerless gauntlets on his hands. He meticulously adjusted his attire, then took a step back, performing the ancient etiquette expected of an audience with a Soul King. Kaguya Nami smiled delicately, very pleased with the 2 squad leaders' appearance. Her initial impression was excellent. He was filled with mixed emotions. He recalled how Gin Ichimaru's initial reaction when he was unsealed had sent chills down his spine, and when Mayuri Kuratsuchi was unsealed, his overflowing joy and reverence weren't bad, but both were a bit excessive. Now, Ritsu Unohana and Byakuya Kachiki's entrance was much more subtle and restrained, giving off a sense of composure and humility honed by time. Truly worthy of being the upright representatives of the Seireitei, as he had chosen them. Excellent. Kaguya Nami didn't say much, leaving the explanation and the touching reunion with her old friends to the squad leaders before turning and leaving with her clone. Satoru Hanafuji and Onizumi also tactfully withdrew, leaving only the 4 squad leaders on the empty rooftop. Gin Ichimaru introduced the current situation of the new world while briefly explaining the new chairman's personality and quirks, occasionally interjecting with casual probing questions. Mayuri Kuratsuchi chimed in from time to time, gesticulating wildly as he enthusiastically touted the new world's wonders, seemingly completely captivated by Chairman Nami. Ritsu Unohana and Byakuya Kachiki listened silently throughout, one with a consistently gentle smile, the other with a cold, indifferent expression. Yet, in the end, they both gave the same answer: they would wholeheartedly support the new chairman's leadership and dedicate their lives to restoring the glory of the Seireitei in this new world. Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned exaggeratedly, Gin Ichimaru smiled sweetly. Ritsu Unohana wore an intellectual and gentle smile, while Byakuya Kachiki gave a forced smile. On the top floor of Hazuki Castle, they overlooked the world in the night. From this night onward, 4 squad leaders had regrouped in the mortal world. After bathing and washing, cleaning off the dust and bloodstains, the 2 Kaguya Nami lay flat on the bed, their eyes meeting, their 14 hearts beating in unison, creating an indescribable strange feeling. Kaguya Nami. Clones, you're such a pretentious jerk. Both Kaguya Nami thought to themselves simultaneously. Then, the clone got up and went to the desk, beginning to write furiously, creating and adjusting the script for the next part. The main Kaguya Nami, however, occupied in a large bed, lying flat with her eyes closed, resting, while mentally glancing at the lottery wheel. Remaining achievement points: 9,742. Indeed, wealth is temporary, poverty is eternal, and money is never enough. Single draw. Because she needed to reserve 4,000 points to unlock a certain vice captain, she only had 5,000 points left to squander. Consecutive draws were too short. Kaguya Nami wanted to last longer tonight, so she decided to try the thrill of a single draw. First draw, you've drawn 10 C-grade miscellaneous Den Den Mushi. Den Den Mushi, a strange telephone disguised as a snail, used for communication. It pretends to sleep during the day and can perfectly mimic the voice and expressions of the speaker during communication. P.S. Do you think it's a telephone disguised as a snail? Or a snail disguised as a telephone? No miracles on the first draw. Kaguya Nami looked at the snail lying motionless on her palm, thinking indifferently, if I steamed and ate a Den Den Mushi, would it be possible to achieve a strange achievement? The Den Den Mushi snail shrank its antennae, feeling a chill inexplicably. Kaguya Nami flipped her hand and put the Den Den Mushi away. Miscellaneous items could be stored in her cheat storage space, but this space was limited to items produced by the cheat. The world is so big, there's nowhere you can't get achievement points. Why make things difficult for your own little snail? Even if she were to be the mastermind, Kaguya Nami still had that much of a moral bottom line. Second draw, you have drawn a grade B miscellaneous item, Lucky Dice 3, Lucky Dice. Rolling the lucky dice will double your luck index based on the number rolled, lasting for 24 hours. P.S. Using the lucky dice in the lottery will significantly shorten the time limit. Please do not cheat. Kaguya Nami looked at the specially marked, "Do not cheat," and a contemptuous smile appeared on her lips. Was this a warning? This was an explicit instruction. The greatest value of this thing was created for use in the lottery. How could it be called cheating? This was clearly the right way. Kaguya Nami opened her palm to reveal an ivory white die. She casually flicked it, intending to use the silk thread to cheat and control the number rolled, but found that the die was protected by a strange force. Unable to cheat, Kaguya Nami felt a slight regret. The die spun rapidly in the air, quickly becoming a blurry blur before abruptly stopping at its peak and falling to the ground. The ivory white die had rolled a 4x luck bonus, remaining duration 24H. A 4x luck bonus. It won't be used up after just one draw, will it? I can still draw 3 more times. I hope you hold out. Kaguya Nami excitedly licked her lips, let out a long breath, and grinned as she pressed the lottery wheel. Now, it was time to witness a miracle with a single draw. Thanks to Sanawa, give money, for the 600-point reward, thanks to Zin, for the 300-point reward, and thanks to aspiring to be the most handsome, for the 100-point reward. P.S. Rewards could actually be given to more characters. Once the characters are unlocked, everyone can win different characters and wander around. I really want Kaguya Nami's, Aizen Sasuke's, or Ichimaru Jin's characters. Chapter 106 Splitting Genes. You have drawn an A-rank skill, Cell Division. Cell Division rapidly splits your body into a clone. This clone has independent thought, inherits all attributes and some copying abilities, and can withstand 200% damage. The clone can be recalled at any time or disappears upon death. Number of splits: 2. Duration: 24H. Mana cost: 300. Cooldown: 120s. Kaguya Nami raised an eyebrow. She felt this skill was somewhat similar to Divide and Become, but its advantage was that it was a clone skill, not a clone linked by life and death. The advantages and disadvantages of these two skills, if they could complement and fuse. Kaguya Nami glanced at the clone hunched over the desk, writing furiously. She felt very uncomfortable having someone living in the same room as her, especially since he looked exactly like her. Kaguya Nami silently withdrew her gaze, carefully read the skill Fusion Stone's description twice more, and had a general idea in mind. She immediately crushed a Fusion Stone. Skill Fusion Stone use. Please select Fusion Skill, choose Divide and Become and Cell Division. Judgment in progress. Both skills are of A-grade quality, with similar skill compatibility. The fusion success rate is 64%. Using a Fusion Stone, the current fusion success rate increases to 84%. Start fusion. No, the 84% fusion rate is merely a mathematical judgment. In Kaguya Nami's eyes, success rates are only 0 and 1. 84% falls into the 0 category. Without hesitation, he crushed another fusion stone to replenish it. Skill fusion stone used. Current skill fusion success rate increased to 100%. Start fusion. Yes. Splitting and forming. Fusion successful with cell division. New skill. Split gene generation. Split gene. You can autonomously split a clone from the genetic level. This clone can completely inherit your attributes. You can selectively copy and implant your skills and talents into this clone, and supplement the body's experience memories. This clone can gain experience and achievements like the original, and the gained experience and achievements are fed back into the original. The clone can be recalled to the original at any time, and returns to the original upon death. The death of the clone does not affect the original, but the death of the original results in the death of all clones. Mana cost 400, cooldown none, duration permanent until recalled or death. Current gene clones limit 2. The memory of the new skill was simultaneously inputted into her mind, and Kaguya Nami's eyes lit up. This was equivalent to dissolving the reverse death link between the clone and the original, while retaining the advantage of the clone being able to farm achievements. Now it should be called a gene clone. Kaguya Nami looked at the desk. The original clone had disappeared. He pursed his lips, and a strange pool of white flesh emerged from his body, wriggling and falling to the ground, where Kaguya Nami manipulated it into a human shape. The playing card attire, the alluring tearful face, the first genetic clone, still retaining Hisoka's appearance, was infused with experience and memories. Kaguya paused slightly, a whimsical idea surfacing in her mind. She pulled Hisoka's card from its slot and casually flicked it into the clone's shell. Click. The card pierced the clone's shell, and Hisoka's card in the slot was considered reinserted. This was because the clone was also an extension of the original. The cards implanted within the clone were still considered by the system as the main body holding the cards. Instantly, a sinister, vibrant smile appeared on Hisoka's stiff face, as if Hisoka had truly been reborn in this clone. This is called creating a clone from the genetic level. If I want, I can implant any skills, talents, or even cards I possess into this clone, like reproducing fragments copied from genes. I can give it personality and thoughts. Although it's my clone, it can be completely regarded as another person, except that its life and death are tied to me, and it can even help me complete achievement tasks. Kaguya Nami judged in her mind. A perfect, autonomous tool. In short, this clone can be regarded as the real Hisoka, except that its upper limit of strength does not depend on itself, but is entirely determined by how many of the original skills, talents, and three-dimensional attributes are copied into it by Kaguya Nami. Thus, following Kaguya Nami's previous role as Hisoka, she copied and injected all the skills and talents of Hisoka's cards, as well as the abilities of the corpse bone pulse and string fruit, into Hisoka's body. In addition, the memories related to her previous role as Hisoka were also transferred into Hisoka's mind. From now on, Hisoka's identity is in your hands. Kaguya Nami said calmly to Hisoka. Hisoka moved his body, thin threads of playing cards dangling from his fingertips, spinning eerily. His little finger bones playfully peeked out from his fingertips, winding and growing. Hisoka savored the familiar yet strange sensations of his body, a sickly flush rising to his face. A pink bubble burst from his mouth, playing myself, how interesting. In a daze, the Hisoka within the cards truly came to life through this cloned body. The previous memories and the upcoming script have been transferred into your mind. So, I hope you enjoy yourself. Although merely a cloned tool, Kaguya Nami treated him as the real Hisoka, a testament to her character and qualities as the guild master. A brand new orchard lies before me. Nothing could be more exhilarating. In return, I will complete every task you assign. Therefore, please do not recall me to my original form while I am playing. Hisoka bowed elegantly to Kaguya Nami. Of course. Kaguya Nami promised understandingly, taking out a Nichiren blade and a Denden mushi and tossing them to Hisoka. The Nichiren blade had been taken by Hisoka from the box of Elysium in full view of everyone, so it was only right that he carry it with him. The Denden mushi was for communication. Although Kaguya Nami could directly link to the clone's mind and spy on and control it, she was willing to give Hisoka respect and privacy. Hisoka casually tucked the back of the blade behind his back, concealed the Denden mushi in his sleeve, stepped onto the window, bid a friendly farewell to Kaguya Nami, and then leaped backward, his back plunging to the ground like a giant kite gliding across Hazuki Castle in the night. Kaguya Nami closed the window and turned back inside to continue drawing lots. There were 2 lotteries remaining. The lucky dice's validity period had been reduced to 16 hours, and each roll reduced it by 8 hours. Therefore, the remaining 2 lotteries would just be enough to use up the lucky dice's validity period. Thus, the ultimate double draw. P.S. A new villain will be released tomorrow. Back pain, going to rest, requesting monthly votes. Less than 100 votes needed, then I can participate in a prize draw next month. Chapter 107 The Ultimate Double Draw, The Resurrected. You have drawn an A-rank miscellaneous item, Weakness Elimination Stone 3, Weakness Elimination Stone, permanently removes 1 weakness from the user. Kaguya Nami looked at the dark stone in her hand. She knew she wouldn't need an umbrella anymore. Muzan Kibutsuji's card could finally work 24/7. You have drawn a card, Kakashibo, S-rank 1-star card. Kaguya Nami was stunned for a moment. At the same time, a notification appeared before her eyes that the lucky dice's timeout had ended. She currently had 4,742 points remaining. Unlocking a vice captain costs 4,500 points, so after deducting reserved points, Kaguya Nami currently has 272 points available. Kurashibo. Kaguya Nami flicked a card from her fingertip, a playful smile playing on her lips. So this is the power of the lucky dice? I just told the ninja world a ghost story using the identity of Muzan Kibutsuji, and now, I've drawn Kakashibo. Hairhead. Now the script will be even more realistic. Kakashibo was originally Muzan Kibutsuji's top general, the Upper Moon One, the first of the 12 demon moons. Driven by jealousy and hatred, he willingly accepted becoming a demon, dedicating his life to the sword and pursuing power. He is the strongest demon besides the progenitor of demons. Originally, Kaguya Nami was still pondering how to fill the 12 demon moons ranks. She couldn't keep having Shinigami impersonate them indefinitely. Now, the problem was solved. Since Hisoka's cards and gene clones could create Hisoka in this world, then Kakashibo's cards should also be able to be resurrected and brought back to this world using the gene clones. Kaguya Nami felt that this shouldn't be the correct way to revive the 12 demon moons. It was a bit extravagant, but it was the quickest and simplest method she could think of at the moment. Coincidentally, Kaguya Nami possessed Kakashibo's card and was also missing 1 gene clone. These 3 draws, one after another, are exactly what I urgently need. It's like a scripted design. Kaguya Nami followed suit, shooting the card in her hand into the clone, while simultaneously using 2 weakness elimination stones to remove the corresponding sunlight-killing weaknesses from both Muzan Kibutsuji and Kakashibo's cards, and then quietly waited for Kakashibo's revival. Similarly, the card used to revive Kakashibo was still judged by the cheat system as being implanted into the main card slot, and thus, Kaguya Nami's own attributes soared again: Strength plus 20, Agility plus 40, Spirit plus 40. As for Kakashibo's own talents and abilities, they are of little significance to Kaguya Nami, who has already equipped the superior card, Progenitor of Demons. He will most likely not show them to the outside world. These skills and talents will still be displayed as Kakashibo's exclusive trademarks. He only glanced at them briefly. Talent, Moon Breathing, Moon Breathing, a style derived from sun breathing, which can make blood demon art more powerful. Talent, Breakthrough Limit, Breakthrough Limit, fearless of being decapitated by Nichiren Blade, and the weakness to sunlight has been erased, therefore, it cannot be killed. Skill, Demon Blade, Demon Blade, a demon blade forged from his own flesh and blood, which produces countless crescent blades with each swing. Skill, Transparent World, Transparent World, the highest realm of breathing, allowing for subtle manipulation of bodily organs, shutting down unnecessary senses, making the body almost transparent and integrated with the world. Greatly enhancing speed, evasion, and predictive abilities. After thinking for a moment, Kaguya Nami copied and implanted the skills, Meat Hook, and Hatching Spider, into Kakashibo's body. In addition, she had a gift to give Kakashibo after he awoke, which he would have to collect from Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Kakashibo, resurrected, with his long black mane in a high ponytail, wearing a purple snake-patterned kimono and black riding hakama, and exuding a ghostly aura, awoke. His 6 ferocious eyes opened simultaneously, and the flame-shaped markings on his neck pulsed with his breath. Among them, 4 eyes contained strange patterns, while the 2 in the middle were engraved with words, one marked upper rank and the other 1. The entire demon stood in place, his face terrifying and eerie, exuding a ghostly aura, yet strangely radiating a sense of majesty and composure. Kakashibo's 6 eyes looked at Kaguya Nami. Whether it was the connection between the clone and the original, or Kakashibo's absolute perception of the aura of the progenitor of demons, he instantly understood that the original Kaguya Nami was the new master of the 12 demon moons. Kakashibo knelt on one knee, bowing his head to Kaguya Nami. Both were transformed from gene clones, but Hisoka's personality was frivolous and crazy, acting on his whims. Kakashibo's personality was rigid and dignified, believing in the hierarchical order. From now on, I will trouble you to continue writing a new chapter in the story of Muzan Kibutsuji and the 12 demon moons in this world, Kaguya Nami said politely. Yes, Kakashibo replied, his tone slightly hesitant, showing absolute obedience. You can consider me Muzan Kibutsuji, that's fine, after all, I did take over everything from him and resurrected you in this world, Kaguya Nami said calmly. Yes, Lord Muzan. Compared to the subordinate relationship of the clone, Kakashibo was clearly more accustomed to being controlled by a demon. Get up. I'll show you around this new world and, while I'm at it, replace your eyes. Kaguya Nami's tone was gentle. With so many eye slots, it can't just look scary. Hell, the eyes in this world are quite unique, I think you'll like them. 6-eyed Kakashibo followed behind Kaguya Nami, his expression calm. He was about to remove his own eyes to make room for them when Kaguya Nami stopped him. Although demons could regenerate their eyes and were perfectly capable of using them as plug-and-play devices, it was too crude. Eyes were delicate components, and it would be better to have Mayuri Kuratsuchi perform a minimally invasive transplant. Perfect timing. I just acquired a batch of beautiful eyeballs, you can choose from them. She pushed open the door to the underground laboratory. Mayuri Kuratsuchi was standing inside, fiddling with a severed arm riddled with eyes. Gin Ichimaru was also there, watching. Byakuya Kachiki and Ritsuya Hana weren't there, they had no interest in the gloomy, cold laboratory. Kaguya Nami led Kakashibo in and explained the purpose. Kuratsuchi Mayuri immediately agreed, displaying great enthusiasm. Ichimaru Jin also looked at Kakashibo with interest. Outside, we will all belong to opposing organizations from now on, but inside, we will all be a loving family. Kaguya Nami was very satisfied with the atmosphere within the organization. Yes, Chairman is right. Kuratsuchi Mayuri quickly echoed. I will follow Chairman's instructions. Ichimaru Jin smiled at Kakashibo. Kakashibo, who hadn't thought much about it before and was oblivious to the cold, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Is the laboratory lacking anything? Kaguya Nami asked Kuratsuchi Mayuri, looking at the spacious, renovated laboratory. Yes, we lack many essential experimental instruments. Kuratsuchi Mayuri looked somewhat troubled. This laboratory was really too rudimentary. He now missed the Technology Development Bureau in Seireitei very much. Well, they'll all be here eventually, Kaguya Nami reassured him, then smiled and added, and soon, some kind souls should be delivering equipment to our door. Kind souls? Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned, he liked the kind souls that Nami mentioned. Yes. Kaguya Nami walked to the corner of the lab wall, where a clothes rack hung with a clean, hollowed-out white snakeskin skeleton. He gently stroked it and murmured, have Byakuya Kachiki pick out a corpse from the prison that his vice-captain finds pleasing to the eye and send it over. I have a script to give them both. Thanks to, Gulang, for the 999 points donation, thanks to, D, for the 500 points donation, thanks to, Dantrian's Garden, for the 100 points donation, and thanks to, for the 100 points donation. Chapter 108 Interrogation, Death? Konoha. Tonight, many will sleep forever, while those still alive will find no rest. In the interrogation room, Akaji Mori and Sarutobi Hirozen met once more. Only half a day had passed since their last private conversation. It was still a closed room, with only the two of them. Akaji Mori was shirtless, his back and chest wrapped in bandages. A shocking scar peeked from beneath the bandages, occasionally oozing blood under the pressure of number one's grip. Hisoka is a madman. How could I possibly know what he was planning? I almost died at his hands. Akaji Mori gritted his teeth, accusing Hisoka of atrocities and his near-death experience. His emotions were so intense that the bandages on his back were soaked with bright red blood from the strain. Shimura Danzo was killed by Hisoka. Why did he kill Danzo? Sarutobi Hirozen puffed on his pipe, his face contorted with wrinkles. Danzo is dead? Akaji Mori's mouth gaped open in an O shape, and he swallowed hard. I don't know, just like I don't understand why he wanted to kill me. Hiruzen Seireitei remained silent, then changed the subject, asking, why is the legend of the Box of Bliss a lie? Why did the grass village deceive Konoha? The grass village didn't deceive Konoha. We originally planned to keep all of this from Konoha. You found out from Hisoka. Akaji Mori said indignantly and with a sense of frustration, I didn't lie to you. I told you at the end that there's another version of the Box of Bliss legend. Hiruzen Seireitei almost bit his pipe. Yes, you seem to have said that, Akaji Mori swallowed hard, carefully observing Hiruzen Seireitei's old face, afraid that the other man would choke on his words and pass out. What exactly is the story behind the demon legend? Hiruzen Seireitei removed his pipe from his mouth, spitting out a few crumbs. Now that the demon was confirmed to be real, he had no choice but to believe it. He wanted to hear more about demons from Mori Akaji. Mori Akaji met Hiruzen Seireitei's murderous gaze and forced a smile, saying, the legend of the Box of Bliss has been passed down through generations among the higher-ups of Kusagakure. Everyone believes that opening the Box of Bliss allows one to make a wish. Only a few know that there's another version of the legend, but no one has ever believed it. They consider it a rumor. I haven't believed it either. How is it a rumor? Hiruzen Seireitei asked, emphasizing each word. The Box of Bliss seals demons. Never open it. Mori Akaji replied. That's it? Hiruzen Seireitei was filled with resentment. If Mori Akaji had warned him like that, he would have opened it. Because it was a rumor, no one believed it, and gradually no one talked about it anymore. It was just this one sentence. Oh, right, the rumor said that the one who sealed the demon was the Grim Reaper. Akaji Mori recalled carefully and said, yes, the original words were, the Grim Reaper sealed the demon in the Box of Elysium. Humans must never open it, demon, Grim Reaper, human. 3 species were contained in a short sentence, 2 of which were not human. Having learned his lesson once, Seireitei Hiruzen dared not take it lightly this time. He had to ponder it carefully. Since the demon had appeared, let's assume for now that the sentence was true. Then, the demon and human were clear now, but what was the Grim Reaper? White clothes, blue face, curled tongue, short dagger. The Reaper death seal. The face of the Grim Reaper appeared in Seireitei Hiruzen's mind. He felt that something was wrong. If it was this Grim Reaper who sealed the demon in the Box of Elysium, then now, Kibutsuji Muzan and he should have become food in the Grim Reaper's belly. The result was that he was 10 years younger. Muzan Kibutsuji swaggered away, leaving with a sarcastic and contemptuous tone. What did he say? You call this thing a Shinigami? I'm afraid your soul will be suppressed in the Palace of Penitence after death, never to be reincarnated. Human, your creative performance is audacious, pleasing me. When has the Shinigami, dwelling at the top of the sky, ever cared about the struggles below the clouds, let alone the pleas of mere humans? These ghostly words flashed through Hiruzen Seireitei's mind. He couldn't understand them at the time, but now, recalling Akaji Mori's words, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration, his wisdom churning in his brain. It's not the Shinigami sealed by the Reaper death seal. The Shinigami that Muzan Kibutsuji mentioned and the Shinigami in Akaji Mori's words are the same one. The clues suddenly aligned. Hiruzen Seireitei was caught in a mental storm, his heart churning with turmoil. A terrifying suspicion flickered in his mind, yet he desperately resisted delving deeper, fearing his worldview built upon ninjutsu would shatter completely. Mori Akaji fell silent, sensing an overwhelming killing intent emanating from Hiruzen. The third Hokage now harbored intense murderous intent towards him. Did he believe me, and therefore want to kill me? Or did he not believe me, and therefore want to kill me? Mori felt his mind reeling. Hiruzen looked at Mori meaningfully, his killing intent growing stronger, but ultimately, he didn't act, abandoning the idea. Because Hisoka, that madman, was still alive outside, and the other ninjas from Kusagakure had vanished without a trace. The only one they had captured and controlled alive was none other than the leader of Kusagakure. Hiruzen's mind raced. He took a deep breath, made his decision, and turned to leave the interrogation room. In another room separated by a wall, Fujigaya emerged from the interrogation room through a one-way mirror, followed by several root interrogation experts. How is it? Hiruzen Seireitei asked. To lower Akaji Mori's guard, they didn't enter the interrogation room to pressure him, but instead silently observed him through the mirror. Judging from the heart rate, chakra fluctuations, and changes in facial expressions, he shouldn't be lying, the root members concluded. These can be faked. The best way is to directly search his brain. Fujigaya coldly suggested. Some ninjutsu can directly access memories, but the drawback is that the person searched might become insane or demented. No, this is enough. Konoha and Kusagakure are both aware of and victims of the demon incident. They should form an alliance and help each other to cope with future changes in the ninja world. Hirozen Seireitei glanced at Fujigaya, remembering this cold and efficient root executive. What about the other ninja village members? One root member asked. How many are still alive? 24. Most perished in the monster's attack. Only the 4 from Sunagakure survived. Other smaller ninja villages suffered casualties. They don't know the whole story. Based on what they saw, they might concoct various conspiracy theories about Konoha. If we let them leave, the ninja world could be rife with rumors, which would be detrimental to harmony and stability. Hirozen Seireitei sighed deeply. Only Sunagakure, as one of the 5 great nations, is a trustworthy ally of Konoha. I understand. Root will handle this. Fujigaya understood Hirozen Seireitei's hint and quickly led a group of root members outside. P.S. Want a demon? Hey, the kind you write. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Shocking and Unconventional. A week later. A shocking piece of news leaked from the Land of Fire. Initially, the news was unclear and dismissed as mere rumor. However, as ninjas sent to investigate from various sides confirmed that large areas of Konoha were indeed destroyed and being rebuilt, as if the village had been ravaged by war, the rumor slowly gained traction, shaking the entire ninja world. The news essentially stated that root leaders Shimura Danzo and Uchiha Itachi had launched a coup during the Chunin exams. Although it ultimately failed and was suppressed by the Third Hokage, Hirozen Seireitei, with Shimura Danzo beheaded and some of the rebellious root members executed, Konoha also suffered heavy casualties. The Uchiha clan of the Guard Corps was massacred by Itachi, leaving only one orphan. The teams from other villages participating in the Chunin exams were also affected, almost entirely wiped out, with only a few Sunagakure ninja surviving. The final result was, Danzo Shimura died, the Uchiha clan was wiped out, the outlying villages' forces perished, and Itachi Uchiha defected and was wanted. Konoha acknowledged the outcome, but was unwilling to discuss the details. After all, rebellion was never a glorious affair, and there was no need to publicize it. They simply expressed deep sorrow and apologized to the small ninja villages that were implicated and suffered tragic deaths, and firmly branded the already deceased Danzo Shimura as Konoha's shame. At the same time, they announced Itachi Uchiha as an S-rank rogue ninja and issued a hefty bounty on his head throughout the ninja world. Of course, Konoha also claimed to have dispatched elite Anbu to hunt down Itachi Uchiha. Sunagakure also released information, indirectly confirming Konoha's account, but because it involved Konoha's reputation, they remained tight-lipped about the details of the suppression of the rebellion that night, making it difficult for outsiders to learn more. However, the ninja world largely chose to believe this explanation. After all, given the deaths of Danzo Shimura and the Uchiha clan's extermination, this was the most plausible explanation, and it was difficult to fabricate other possibilities out of thin air. The explanation of rebellion, with its conspiracy, struggle, and death, satisfied the ninja world's expectations and desires for Konoha. Even if there were some unknown details, they didn't seem worth delving into. The only drawback was that, afterwards, Sunagakure didn't take advantage of Konoha's weakness to stab them in the back. Instead, they forged a closer alliance with Konoha, even sending a team of elite ninja to help with Konoha's defenses and rebuilding. The entire story made no specific mention of Kusagakure, clearly indicating that they were glossed over, their entire force wiped out like those of the smaller ninja villages. No one outside knew the crucial role Kusagakure played in this incident, nor did they know that 4 days after Akaji Mori emerged from interrogation, he immediately and secretly signed a series of treaties with Konoha. According to these treaties, Akaji Mori had essentially sold off all of Kusagakure's assets. From now on, while Kusagakure would outwardly be an ally of Konoha, it would in reality become a completely subordinate village of Konoha, forced to obey Konoha's every command. Konoha certainly believed this. Little did they know, the highest leader of Kusagakure, harbored similar thoughts. He signed the treaties with a stern face and, escorted by members of Konoha's root organization, quietly left Konoha and returned to Kusagakure. Incidentally, the smooth signing of these treaties was undoubtedly due in no small part to the frequent pressure and coercion exerted on Akechi Mori by a certain important root cadre. At this moment, in the conference room on the top floor of the Hokage's office building, this important root cadre, due to his recent outstanding performance, was granted special permission by Hirozen Seireitei to represent root at this important meeting. In the spacious, enclosed conference room, long, upright tables were filled with Konoha's higher-ranking officials, the elders, heads of major clans, and heads of various important departments. The atmosphere was heavy and somber. Hirozen Seireitei, seated at the head of the table, recounted the tragic events of 7 days prior, his face etched with grief, detailing the events as if reviewing a reenactment. Of course, Hirozen's choice of words was carefully considered, and he concealed the truth about the Uchiha clan's massacre. As he spoke, the audience gained a general understanding of the events leading up to the tragedy. While the third Hokage bore undeniable responsibility and fault, the greater fault lay with Danzo Shimura, who acted first and informed later, secretly dragging the situation into an unavoidable and irreversible state. Danzo Shimura, his death was well deserved. That's the whole story. It's all because I, as Hokage, failed to fulfill my duties. I didn't discover the danger of the box of Elysium sooner, and ultimately made a foolish mistake along with Danzo Shimura, leading to the situation we have today. Hirozen Seireitei's voice was hoarse, his heart aching. The meeting room was silent and oppressive. They were processing the story, observing and waiting for others' reactions. In fact, a week had passed, and most of those involved already knew and speculated about the situation. Some had even been separately summoned by the Hokage and the elders before today's meeting, and were informed of the truth in advance. The silent atmosphere thickened, becoming increasingly oppressive. After a long silence, Elder Mutakato Hamir broke the silence. Danzo has already paid for his mistakes with his life. His body and even his head were never recovered, and he was even branded a traitor after death. That punishment is enough for him. As for Hirozen, you must not wallow in grief and self-blame. Now is not the time to dwell on past mistakes. Konoha is currently in an unprecedentedly weak state. As Hokage, you must lead Konoha through this to prevent other villages from harboring any improper intentions. Also, you must deal with the potential crisis brought about by the appearance of the demons. That's right. Currently, only Konoha, Tsunagakure, and Kusagakure, which has a treaty with us, know about the appearance of the demons. This may be a huge crisis facing the ninja world, but because of our intelligence advantage, Konoha may be able to turn this crisis into an opportunity. The key is what we do next, and this intelligence advantage was bought with many lives lost by Konoha. Elder Kaoru Udatain lowered her voice. Time is of the essence. Once the demons cause a bigger stir outside and the whole world knows, Konoha will lose its intelligence advantage. Hirozen, you must lead Konoha to seize this opportunity. The most urgent task is to quickly figure out what the demons are and what their purpose is. The elder's words slightly dispelled the oppressive atmosphere in the meeting room, and everyone fell into thought. Was the existence of the demons a danger or an opportunity? This was indeed a question worth pondering. What should Konoha do next? It truly needed the Hokage to make the decision and guide the direction. In fact, after the root organization wiped out the younger ninja village's forces, reached a further alliance with Tsunagakure, and forced Kusagakure to sign a contract, those present already had a vague answer in their hearts. Peace in the ninja world? Although Konoha had just suffered a loss at the hands of the demons, no one present truly believed that a few demons could pose a threat to the entire ninja world. Therefore, what Konoha needed to do was indeed to find a way to turn this loss into an opportunity. That's right, there's no time for us to grieve. Konoha must decide on its next move as soon as possible. Hirozen Seireitei suppressed his grief and self-blame, took a deep breath, and looked at Shikaku Nara, saying, "Let's analyze the intelligence we've gathered together." Chapter 110 has always been hidden among us. The three clans, the Ino Shikacho, are staunch supporters of the Hokage faction. The Nara clan is known for its highly intelligent members, with Nara Shikaku serving as the current clan head and advisor to the Hokage. Frankly speaking, in this meeting room, Nara Shikaku's intelligence far surpasses everyone else's, earning him the deep trust and respect of Hirozen Seireitei. If it weren't for the dark and sordid plots of the Uchiha clan massacre and the Box of Paradise, which required Hiruzen Sarutobi to maintain the Hokage's righteous image in front of the Ino Shikacho, and thus kept quiet about the events before revealing anything to Nara Shikaku, Konoha's current situation might be somewhat better. Nara Shikaku said, "Things happened too suddenly. Although we've been organizing and gathering information for a week, the results are still intricate and confusing, like a tangled mess, making it difficult to determine the truth. To make it easier for everyone to understand, I've rewritten the entire process and the information gathered along the way. You can take a look first." After obtaining permission from Hiruzen Sarutobi, Nara Shikaku distributed a copy of the written document to everyone present. After patiently waiting for them to finish reading, he pulled out more blackboard and wrote several titles on it with chalk: The Box of Elysium, Demons, Hueco Mundo. Nara Shikaku didn't mention the Shinigami, Death Gods, because Hiruzen Sarutobi deliberately concealed this information from him for some reason. The Box of Bliss, the box that seals demons. Nara Shikaku wrote swiftly on the blackboard, then said, "Everyone knows the origins and legends now. What we need to figure out next is, since there's a box, who made it, and who sealed the demons inside. If we can figure out the true origin of the Box of Bliss, perhaps we can also figure out the origin of the demons themselves." Then, Nara Shikaku circled the word demon, thought for a moment, and added a question mark. "Demons, are they real?" Everyone in the conference room froze. Hiruzen Sarutobi frowned. They had already collectively encountered demons appearing, so why question their existence? Indeed, Konoha witnessed the terror and eeriness of the demon 7 days ago, but is what the I see necessarily true? I have to question this, because the existence of the demon is so far beyond my comprehension that I can hardly believe it. If the demon exists, and has existed for at least 1,000 years, then why is it that we have never known about such a terrifying monster before? No one has ever seen or heard of it, and there isn't even a written record of it. There's only the Box of Bliss and its legend. This doesn't make sense. Nara Shikaku was analyzing purely based on logic. So I've come to two conclusions. The first conclusion is based on the assumption that the demon's existence is fake, that there is no such thing as a legend or 1,000 years. What we see now and everything is a hoax. Someone has meticulously fabricated a story and presented it to us. Although we don't know how they did it, this conclusion is terrifying. It means that there is a terrifying mastermind behind everything, and we don't even know their existence or purpose. Hiruzen Sarutobi frowned. He had never considered this possibility. He admitted that Nara Shikaku's analysis made sense, but he didn't believe it was correct. Because he was the one facing the terror of demons directly. He could be absolutely certain that those creatures in human skin were not human. Moreover, the retreat of the Shinigami during the Reaper Death Seal, and his body being 10 years younger, made Hiruzen Sarutobi extremely certain that demons existed, and perhaps even unknown Shinigami. But Hiruzen Sarutobi didn't intend to tell Nara Shikaku any of this now. He interrupted Nara Shikaku's unrealistic deductions. There couldn't possibly be a mastermind behind such a terrifying deception in the ninja world. Konoha couldn't do it, and neither could the other major nations. Say this second conclusion, I can be very certain, it's the real demons. Hiruzen Sarutobi said decisively. Nara Shikaku instantly understood. The Hokage might be hiding some crucial information from him, information that made him absolutely certain that demons existed. He didn't press for details about the information, but he was willing to believe the Hokage's judgment was correct, or rather, deep down he didn't think the probability of such a conclusion was high. Because it sounded too bizarre and terrifying. Among the intelligent people in the meeting room, they all realized what was happening and completely forgot about Nara Shikaku's first judgment. The second one, demons are real, and have existed for over 1,000 years, so why don't we know of their existence? Even if demons are sealed in the Box of Paradise, why have such terrifying and bizarre creatures, even those who claim to be the former masters of the world, never left any trace or memory of us in this world? They don't even exist in written records? The demons sealed in the Box of Paradise, we don't know about them, but why are we also unaware of the demons among the 12 demon moons that appeared later, since they were sealed? Why? Hiruzen Sarutobi also wanted to know the answer to this question, but he couldn't figure it out himself. Nara Shikaku licked his dry lips. His next deduction was horrifying: no trace, no writing, only a legend no one believes. This means some terrifying force has erased the existence of demons from this world, from human history and memory. Only when humanity completely forgets demons can they discreetly don human skin, hiding among humans without our notice, because we simply can't recall their terror or existence. Would you doubt that a creature that looks like a human isn't actually human, especially when their numbers are perhaps small and they are adept at hiding and being discreet? This deduction was so chilling that a cold sweat ran down everyone's spines, and their scalps tingled. Demons have always been there, perhaps always hidden among humans. But those who remained undiscovered, or rather, those who were discovered, were killed by demons. Until Muzan Kibutsuji emerged arrogantly from the box of paradise, the hidden demons realized they no longer needed to hide among humans. In other words, it's very possible that one day, I brushed past a demon in human skin without even realizing it. Akemichichuza realized, a chill running down his spine. Impossible, that's too creepy. Fujigaya, sitting in the corner, was the first to disbelieve it. Perhaps, these demons have been sealed away, or fallen into deep sleep, someone said, looking at the report in his hand, where the word sleep was mentioned in the records of conversations between demons. Yes, that's indeed the case. That's why I said the number of demons hiding among humans isn't large, but they definitely exist. And we must be careful. Nara Shikoku insisted on his judgment. The box of paradise had only been opened a short while before those demons came to greet us. This means they weren't asleep, but awake and summoned, and they just happened to be not far from Konoha. Or perhaps they were already hiding in Konoha. The pupils of everyone in the conference room contracted, and they looked around with chills, seeing their own frozen faces reflected in the eyes of those around them, goosebumps rising on their skin. Released on the 1st, yes, it'll be available tomorrow night at midnight. Chapter 111 Human memories have been tampered with. The atmosphere in the conference room suddenly shifted to a strange and eerie one. Everyone gasped, politely averting their eyes from the faces of those around them. A demon lurking among humans. A demon hiding in Konoha. These were like two bombshells suddenly detonated. The crucial point was, you had to admit, Nara Shikoku's words made sense. At least, those present felt a chill run down their spines while lacking the intellectual capacity to refute Nara Shikoku's deduction. Furthermore, was it possible that a demon was actually sitting in this conference room? Shikoku. Hirozen Seireitei looked at Nara Shikoku, awaiting his explanation. He believed that with a man's intelligence, he wouldn't be merely trying to create panic in the conference room. I've carefully read through the files of everyone here these past 2 days, and based on my understanding of you all, I firmly believe that none of you here are demons in human form. Nara Shikoku looked at each person earnestly, then changed the subject. But to put everyone at ease, I'd like you to take a simple test. As he spoke, Nara Shikoku drew a kunai, deftly slashing his palm. Blood dripped from the wound onto the table. Currently, the demons we've encountered fall into 2 categories. One is Muzan Kibutsuji and 4 of the 12 demon moons, all in human form. They are likely a higher form of demon, possessing intelligence and the ability to communicate, allowing them to disguise themselves among humans. The other type is enormous and ferocious, lacking intelligence and communication, and unable to transform into human form. For now, we'll also define them as demons, a lower form of demon. Although Nara Shikoku didn't understand the difference between demons and hollows, his categorization of them as demons was understandable. But they all share a common characteristic: they are difficult to kill and possess terrifying regenerative abilities. This regenerative ability is even stronger in humanoid demons. Moreover, according to the medical department, this is an innate passive ability of demons, meaning that demons find it difficult to actively control their wounds to prevent healing, especially small wounds like this. Konoha's initial encounter with demons wasn't without its gains. They captured several hollows and guard dogs. These 7 days were enough for the medical department to conduct experiments and draw some basic conclusions and intelligence. This is why Nara Shikoku dared to draw this conclusion. Everyone, let's begin. Just a small cut will do. Nara Shikoku opened his palm, revealing a cut the size of a little finger. If it were a demon, such a wound would have healed in the time it took him to speak. Akemichichuza took the kunai, unhesitatingly slashed his palm, and then passed it from right to left. Soon, a faint smell of blood filled the entire conference room. Fujigaya also cut his palm, letting the blood drip, and silently observed the conference room, inwardly thrilled. None of them are demons. Now we can rest assured. None of the wounds showed any signs of healing. To be on the safe side, Nara Shikoku even observed them for 2 more minutes before nodding to Hirozen Seireitei with great satisfaction. The expressions of the people in the conference room softened slightly. At least they could trust each other now. We can use the same method to check everyone in Konoha to see if any demons are hiding, Narashikoku said. There shouldn't be any. Fujitani suddenly interjected. If there were any hidden demons in Konoha, they should have appeared before Muzan killed Butsuji immediately that day and left with him. Konoha should be absolutely safe now. That's right. Narashikoku glanced at Fujitani, who was clearly a smart man. But just to be on the safe side, we should still do a thorough screening so everyone can feel at ease. Fujitani didn't say anything more. He was just trying to get Narashikoku's attention and make a preliminary impression. He planned to find an opportunity to contact Narashikoku later. Let's do as Shikoku says. Sarutobi Hiruzen was mature and cautious. He also suspected that the 4 masked demons might actually be people who had originally been hiding in his village. Although these 4 demons had left, if they could find out their previous disguises and appearances, they would be very valuable clues. Shikoku, you just said that there is a power that has erased the traces and history of demons. What do you mean? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked. He tended to believe Narashikoku's judgment. They erased all written records of the demon's existence, and then altered and erased all human memories related to demons. Thus, as time passes, unless the demons themselves actively reveal themselves, and we, their unknowing descendants, find it very difficult to discover their existence. Narashikoku was only deducing the initial cause from the current outcome. Due to lack of information, he could only speculate at most. Perhaps it's some kind of large-scale ninjutsu, collectively erasing or altering the memories of humanity. Well, it shouldn't be called ninjutsu, but rather the kind of power that demons can manipulate, or something similar, some other power we don't know about. Altering or erasing everyone's memories, is that even possible? What kind of terrifying power would that be? It's unimaginable. Was it done by demons? Hiruzen Sarutobi asked, following Narashikoku's train of thought. It could be demons, or it could be the power that sealed Muzan Kibutsuji in the Box of Elysium. Narashikoku couldn't provide an answer. The Box of Paradise is also a legendary treasure used by the Sage of Six Paths, so Hiruzen Sarutobi threw out another clue. The legend of the Sage of Six Paths dates back 1,000 years, making its veracity difficult to verify. Could it be that the one who sealed Muzan Kibutsuji into the Box of Paradise was the Sage of Six Paths? There aren't many detailed records about the Sage of Six Paths in the ninja world. It's only said that he founded Ninshu and is a figure from mythology. The Box of Paradise is a treasure used by the Sage of Six Paths. Narashikoku was also hearing this clue for the first time. He was somewhat speechless, wondering how many more important clues Hiruzen Sarutobi was hiding from him. It's possible. The era in which the Sage of Six Paths existed might be close to the time when Muzan Kibutsuji was sealed, but we can't pinpoint the exact time. In history, even a slight deviation could mean they were from different eras. Narashikoku pondered for a while, then said seriously, Muzan Kibutsuji claims to have been sealed for 1,000 years, but that's probably just a vague number. And being sealed for 1,000 years only proves he lived for at least 1,000 years, not that he only existed for 1,000 years. What if his existence and sealing predate the Sage of Six Paths? Does that mean that Muzan Kibutsuji was already sealed when the Sage of Six Paths was born? Otherwise, it's inexplicable. If the Sage of Six Paths sealed a demon, it likely means he erased the memories of humans at that time, which doesn't explain why he would do that. I'm more inclined to believe that Muzan Kibutsuji was sealed before the Sage of Six Paths existed, or even that the concept of demons didn't exist in the Sage of Six Paths memories. Narashikoku wasn't just guessing. He had a strong intuition that the Sage of Six Paths had absolutely nothing to do with the sealing of demons. This judgment was based on Muzan Kibutsuji's attitude towards humans after emerging from the Box of Elysium. It was a contemptuous, condescending attitude, viewing humans as mere food and playthings. Narashikoku had a clear understanding of the mythological legends. The Sage of Six Paths was the founder of ninjutsu, a deified figure, a person whose image was embellished by later generations' imaginations and deification, but ultimately, he was still human. Muzan Kibutsuji, on the other hand, was a real demon. Imagine, if it was the Sage of Six Paths who sealed Muzan Kibutsuji, would Muzan still have shown such disdain towards humans? Chapter 112. We finally glimpsed the 13 paths at the top of Hueco Mundo. Silence reigned in the meeting room today. Narashikoku continued his analysis of Hueco Mundo on the small blackboard. Our understanding of Hueco Mundo comes entirely from the conversations of the demons. From this, we know that the inner space sealed within the box of Elysium is a corner of Hueco Mundo, so Hueco Mundo must be a region or space, but we don't know exactly where it is. Furthermore, since demons have died in Hueco Mundo, can we infer that there are methods to kill demons hidden within Hueco Mundo, or that there are things within Hueco Mundo that can kill demons? Memories can be erased and altered, and demons can disguise themselves and hide among humans, but how can a vast region be hidden for thousands of years without ever being discovered by humans? Unless, Hueco Mundo doesn't exist in the human world at all, but is located in a place we can't see. If we connect these points, it precisely confirms Muzan Kibutsuji's contemptuous statement, humans have never glimpsed the true sky. Narashikaku's heart was heavy. All the above deductions were based on the premise that the demons were real, a point that Hirozen Seireitei had already set, and the demons were telling the truth, and given their disdainful contempt for humans, they shouldn't be lying anymore. In other words, have ninjas, no, we humans, truly seen the true face of this world? Narashikaku turned to look at Yamanaka Inochi, who immediately stood up, took a scroll from his robes, and spread it out on the long table. The scroll depicted a circular wall that seemed to reach the sky, within which stretched a vast, mountain-like complex of buildings, exuding an ancient charm that hinted at the vicissitudes of time. At the center of this complex was a seemingly endless stone staircase, like a ladder winding into the clouds to the heavens. At the top of this ladder stood 13 figures, all dressed in black robes, wearing white hori, with sharp blades at their waists, coldly looking down. "What is this?" someone asked. Most of the monsters we captured alive lacked consciousness and memory, but the headless monster guarding the box of bliss retained some rationality and memory. Therefore, I had Yamanaka Inochi examine and read its thoughts and memories. "This painting is a scene gleaned from that monster's memory." Narashikaku replied. Yes, that monster had no head but still possessed memories, which surprised me greatly. So I tried to read its thoughts and memories. The Yamanaka clan possesses secret techniques for controlling minds and reading thoughts, and Yamanaka Inochi is the absolute leader of the Konoha analysis department. Having him read the guard dog's memories ensures that the memories obtained are authentic and reliable. The monster's memories are shackled, it's difficult for me to see clearly, as if they were obscured by some terrifying force. I tried various methods, but in the end, I could only glimpse this vague content, which should be the most memorable scene in the monster's memory. Yamanaka Inochi described the difficulty of peering into the memories, unable to uncover more truth from the monster's memories, but this only further emphasized the rarity and value of the content on this scroll. The monster's deepest memory is of this place, a massive complex of buildings. I can't estimate the area it occupies, but it feels unimaginably huge. And then there are those towering walls that reach into the sky. If this place truly exists in the ninja world, we couldn't possibly be unaware of it or unable to see it. Shikaku suspects this is the Hueco Mundo that the demon spoke of, in a place we can't see. Yamanaka Inochi paused, allowing the people in the meeting room to digest this shocking analysis, before slowly continuing. The 13 figures at the top of this heavenly ladder should be creatures from Hueco Mundo. Currently, they appear to be human-shaped, but it's still too early to say for sure whether they are human. Since demons can disguise themselves as human-shaped, the species in Hueco Mundo might also possess the same ability. Now, they dare not assume that the other party is of the same species as themselves based solely on their appearance. 12 of the faces were obscured, I couldn't see them, but I could feel the fear emanating from the monster's soul when I peered into those 13 figures in my memory. I can't describe that fear, it was as if the monster would rather die than face the terror those figures brought it. Yamanaka Inochi recalled the feeling of resonating with the monster's soul, and involuntarily shuddered. He pointed to the only figure in the painting whose face was visible, and among these 13 figures, this face was the one most closely connected to the monster, and the one that terrified it the most. So much so that even through the layers of memory, the monster still retained the other's appearance and name. It was a cold and handsome face, with icy and ruthless light purple eyes, and a meticulously tied hairstyle that also gave off an extremely chilling feeling. Name? Everyone looked at the face in the painting and asked. To be precise, only half a name, a surname. Yamanaka Inochi slowly uttered 2 words, Kuchiki. A surname never heard of before. Hirozen Seireitei took a light puff of his pipe, his face expressionless as he stared at the painting, at the towering walls reaching into the sky and the ladder leading to the top. A different perspective formed in his mind than that of Shikoku Nara, but he remained silent. The analysis ends here. Shikoku Nara concluded his intelligence analysis, adding, however, most of our information comes from Muzan Kibatsuji. These are facts subjectively stated from the demon's perspective, and we cannot judge whether they differ from the true objective truth. We need more information. The people in the meeting room seemed thoughtful. I suggest the following directions for investigating the sources of intelligence. First, track the demon's movements. Second, investigate the surname Kachiki. Third, examine all the legends and stories circulating in the ninja world. Fourth, the sword Hisoka took from the box of paradise needs to be retrieved. Shikoku Nara, as the Hokage's advisor, offered reasonable suggestions. Hiruzen Seireitei then assigned tasks to everyone and concluded the meeting, leaving only the elders and Fujigaya. What follows is not suitable for discussion in a meeting. At the same time, two pairs of straw sandals stepped onto the border of the land of fire, one after the other, their black robes fluttering gently in the wind. A chilling aura permeated the air, and in the distance, several cherry blossom trees in full bloom shed their petals. It's been a long time since I've smelled the air of the mortal world. I never thought I'd have the chance to go on a mission with Captain Kachiki. His bright red hair was tied up in a high ponytail, and a large blue tattoo was tattooed above his eyebrows. Half of his hair was covered by a white headscarf, revealing an arrogant face. The vice captain of the 6th Division, Rinji Ibari, carried a menacing snake-belly sword in one hand, exuding a stinging aura. He held two photos between his fingers and said menacingly, "This mission doesn't require Captain Kachiki's intervention. I can handle it myself. The years that have been in prison within time have finally been broken. My Zabimaru has been itching for a long time." The two photos were held between his fingers. A face wearing a black mask with only one eye visible was faintly discernible, while the other was a sinister, serpentine face. Kachiki Shirose remained non-committal, catching a falling cherry blossom, his expression still cold. "That's not the mission target, it's the performance subject. Don't confuse the two." Before setting off, Kuratsuchi Mayuri had specifically explained the difference between performance and mission to Kachiki Shirose and Ibari Rinji. Clearly, Ibari Rinji was the kind of Shinigami who didn't pay attention in class. "I understand, Captain." Ibari Rinji lightly swung his Zabimaru, listening to the roar of the blade tearing through the air. His blood was already boiling. He couldn't wait to see these two, performance subjects. The story will be available tonight at midnight. Please subscribe. A famous scene adaptation is coming. Chapter 113 Performing Characters, please enter. Inside the meeting room, Hiruzen Seireitei and the elders sat, while Fujigaya stood and reported. The Root members have made contact with Orochimaru. No, it should be said that Root, under Danzo's instructions, has maintained secret contact with Orochimaru. Given that Shimura Danzo was dead, there was no need to hide these dark secrets from the Hokage. Fujigaya spoke frankly and without reservation, appearing completely obedient and loyal to Hiruzen Seireitei. "What is Root doing maintaining contact with Orochimaru?" Kaguya Nami asked, frowning. "We'll collaborate on some forbidden experiments. Root will provide the knowledge and materials, and Orochimaru will assist in the research according to Lord Danzo's instructions. The results will be shared with Root." "These matters weren't secrets within Root," Fujigaya replied. "The arm hidden under Lord Danzo's bandages was created using Orochimaru's research. That arm contained the first Hokage's cells and several 3-Tomo Sharingan eyes. Senju Hashirama's cells plus Uchiha Sharingan equals?" Kaguya Nami and Hamura Midikato exchanged bewildered glances. Hiruzen Seireitei puffed on his pipe. The three old men remained silent. Since Danzo was dead, they couldn't be bothered to pursue these matters further, especially since the arm had vanished. "What does it mean for Root and Orochimaru to make contact?" Hamura Midikato broke the silence. Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin of Konoha, was originally Hiruzen Seireitei's most valued student. He once used living people in the village for forbidden experiments. After being discovered, he defected. He is a scientific madman who will stop at nothing to pursue knowledge and immortality. Fujigaya glanced at Hiruzen Seireitei, who silently puffed on his pipe. Fujigaya sneered inwardly, humans were such hypocritical creatures. But outwardly, he remained expressionless. After receiving Hiruzen Seireitei's tacit approval, he explained to the elders, "The watchdog, that headless monster, is progressing abnormally slowly in the medical department's research experiments on it. At this rate, it will be difficult for us to obtain useful information in the short term. The medical department consisted of ordinary doctors with mediocre research abilities. The watchdog, such advanced material, was far beyond their capabilities, a subject they couldn't tackle. Whether it was experimenting on the watchdog to research the abilities and applications of demons, or trying to glean intelligence from it, it was all asking too much of them. They still didn't even know how to remove the collar from its body. Therefore, it's obvious that Root has set its sights on Orochimaru. If anyone in the entire ninja world is most irresistible to this unknown creature, and most likely to be able to research it, it's undoubtedly Orochimaru. The elders are well aware of this, and Hiruzen Sarutobi has unwavering faith in his students' abilities. Without a doubt, after Danzo's death, only the Hokage has the power to order Root to do this. Kahoru Utatane and Hamura Medikato exchanged a glance, tacitly approving of this for the sake of the bigger picture. Orochimaru has committed unforgivable mistakes. He's a traitor to Konoha. This kind of contact can only be conducted secretly, in the name of Root. Hamura Medikato glanced at Fujiwara. It seems this is the successor Hiruzen Sarutobi has chosen for Danzo. For Danzo's successor, ability is secondary. The willingness to take the blame is paramount. Root is the root of Konoha, the foundation of the village. As long as Konoha flourishes, we, the members of Root, don't care about being tainted by the mud. This is the belief that Lord Danzo taught us. Although Lord Danzo is dead, Root will continue to uphold and inherit this ideal. Fujitani, clearly influenced by Danzo's teachings, said coldly, the contact with Orochimaru is Root's doing, and has nothing to do with the Hokage or the Elder Council. Kahoru Utatane and Hamura Medikato nodded in satisfaction. Danzo Shimura had a successor. This was rare good news for Konoha at this stage. Hiruzen Sarutobi remained silent. After observing for the past few days, he was very satisfied with Fujitani's abilities and loyalty. If nothing unexpected happened, Root would be managed by Fujitani, and he, as the Hokage, only needed to control the overall situation and remotely manage from behind. How did the contact go? Kahoru Utatane asked. Orochimaru didn't believe that Shimura Danzo would join forces with Uchiha Itachi to launch a coup. So, surprisingly, he readily believed the demon's claim and immediately agreed to research this creature for Root. Fujiwara reported truthfully. The process was unexpectedly simple, rendering some of Root's prepared backup plans useless. It's not necessarily that he believed it easily. Orochimaru was one of the legendary Sannin of Konoha and had been operating in the village for many years. Even if he defected, most of his subordinates were implicated and purged. It's normal for a few of his spies to remain in the village. He probably already knew about the demon before Root even contacted him. Medikato Hamura sneered. What conditions did Orochimaru propose? Utatane Kahoru asked. Orochimaru agreed to conduct research experiments for Root and share the results, but he won't enter Konoha's territory. Instead, he requires Root to deliver the headless monster to him. Fujiwara replied, he gave Root a time and place. What do you think? Sarutobi Hiruzen finally asked. Kahoru Utatane and Hamura Medikato exchanged a knowing glance. Hiruzen Sarutobi hadn't directly refused, but instead brought it up for discussion, indicating that he was already inclined to agree. We can agree, but how can we ensure Orochimaru keeps his promise? Kahoru Utatane asked. Once the headless monster was sent out, they had no way to restrain Orochimaru. The intelligence advantage regarding the demon was bought with Konoha's lives. We can't just watch time be wasted. We must obtain useful information and results before the demon makes its next move. Hiruzen Sarutobi exhaled a smoke ring and said in a deep voice, since keeping it will yield no results in the short term, we might as well hand it over to Orochimaru. As for the experimental results, Orochimaru's previous transactions with Lord Danzo went very smoothly. Fujiwara aptly remarked. Although Orochimaru was ruthless and unscrupulous in his research, his personal integrity was still excellent. Prepare according to Orochimaru's time and place, Hiruzen Sarutobi instructed Fujiwara. Alright, but the opponent is Orochimaru after all, so necessary precautions are essential. However, Root has suffered heavy losses. Fujiwara agreed, but then showed a hint of difficulty. Hiruzen Sarutobi frowned slightly. Konoha didn't have many high-ranking combatants available right now. After thinking for a moment, he reluctantly said, I will have a Kakashi Hatake participate in this operation. Fujiwara was extremely satisfied with Hiruzen Sarutobi's understanding. Under the leadership of such a wise Hokage, Root would surely grow stronger again. Chapter 114 Nami's small goal. Mayuri Kuratsuchi sets his sights on Orochimaru. Akagi Mori, the highest leader of Kusagakure, returned triumphantly, carrying a series of unequal treaties signed with Konoha. Konoha believed that these treaties would bind Kusagakure to their cause, making it a subordinate village. However, in Akagi Mori's eyes, every word of the treaties represented Konoha's full sincerity. Konoha had essentially joined Kusagakure's circle of friends. Kaguya Nami highly praised Akagi Mori's competence and awarded him a small snail. Satisfied, Akagi Mori returned to Kusagakure headquarters and, following the instructions of both the chairman and Konoha, issued an S-rank warrant for the rogue ninja Hisoka. And to make the act convincing, Kusagakure dispatched a pursuit team that very day, carrying Hisoka's photo and hunting him down across the world. Akagi Mori's instructions to the pursuit team were that they shouldn't return to the village until they obtained Hisoka's head, a determination worthy of emulation by Konoha's team hunting down Uchiha Itachi. Inside Hazuki Castle. After a week of meticulous selection, Mayuri Kuratsuchi chose the 6 best-looking eyes from a pile of red pupils and performed the eye transplant surgery on Kakashibo. The surgery wasn't complicated, Kakashibo could have even performed it himself. However, the trust shown by the chairman and the respectful ritualistic approach to science made Mayuri very happy. Similarly, Kakashibo, with his 6 Sharingan eyes blinking after the bandages were removed, felt Chairman Nami's humane care for him during the process, a warmth that the former Muzan Kibutsuji had never given him. If there were data-driven indicators in a game, Mayuri and Kakashibo's loyalty would both have increased. At the same time, Kakashibo and Mayuri forged a trust and friendship that transcended species. A demon and a Shinigami became good friends, and within Hazuki Castle, they were always inseparable, making Gin Ichimaru feel neglected. Mayuri Kuratsuchi never hid his desire to dissect Kakashibo, and Kakashibo generously allowed Mayuri to conduct various dissection experiments on him. After each dissection, Mayuri's strange knowledge was enhanced, and Kakashibo's body underwent some strange development and modification. Each got what they wanted, and their friendship grew stronger. Gin Ichimaru would always find time to watch the experiments, and after each one, he would smilingly suggest holification to Kakashibo. Kakashibo always resolutely refused. As a demon, he hated Gin Ichimaru's concerned and benevolent smile. He and this Shinigami were not on the same side. He preferred and trusted Mayuri's exaggerated and perverse villainous smile. Therefore, Kakashibo never appeared before the gentle Ritsuana Hana. Her maternal face made him uncomfortable and gave him the creeps. This was the daily routine within Hazuki Castle, a harmonious atmosphere that Chairman Nami greatly appreciated. During this time, Kaguya Nami stayed in her room every day to complete her script writing. She had expanded the sequel to the Ninja World story from the initial 19 versions to 37 versions. Buried in writing and meticulously crafting, when not outperforming or directing, Kaguya Nami acted like a diligent and harmless screenwriter. Who would dare to suspect that she was the mastermind behind everything? Kaguya Nami had Warden Mui expand and open up the entire top floor of Hazuki Castle, turning it into her own bedroom and study. Bookshelves were built along the wide walls, displaying all her manuscripts and scripts, each version wrapped in an exquisite cover. Scattered on the shelves were a few discs, recordings of scenes she directed by her subordinates. A long and arduous journey lies ahead. Kaguya Nami finished the 38th version of the script, stretched, and looked at the bookshelves lining the room in a circle. She set herself a small goal: once these bookshelves are full, I can organize a screening and invite some lucky viewers from the Ninja World to attend. She sealed the 38th version of the script and placed it on the shelf. Kaguya Nami picked up Asachi from the doorway, pushed open the door, and walked outside. Incidentally, Asachi seemed to have appeared in her dream one night, introducing himself, but Kaguya Nami hadn't heard him clearly and hadn't remembered him. With her hard work completed, Kaguya Nami decided to go out and change her pace. A good screenwriter plus director plus behind-the-scenes mastermind equals Kaguya Nami. She had to learn to manage her time effectively, balancing work and rest. It was time for her to go out and gather inspiration. She had decided on her destination 7 days ago, Atagakure. At the entrance, Mayuri Kuratsuchi, looking excited and agitated, Gin Ichimaru, with a beaming smile, Ritsuana Hana, with a kind smile, and Kakashibo, whose 6 eyes blinked coldly, had been waiting for some time. Also present were Satoru Hanafuji and Onizuki, carrying a camera. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, what are you doing with that human skin in your hand? Kaguya Nami looked at Mayuri Kuratsuchi suspiciously. I've restitched Orochimaru's remains. I figured I'd be taking so many of his things, it wouldn't be good to visit empty-handed. I should leave him a gift, Mayuri Kuratsuchi replied. Mayuri Kuratsuchi had already noticed and remembered President Nami's penchant for giving gifts to friends, and he had thoughtfully prepared one for Kaguya Nami in advance. You've thought of everything. Kaguya Nami suddenly realized, grinning as her face visibly transformed into the likeness of Muzan Kibatsuji. The group that had followed her from the doorway had also already changed into their costumes, pulling out custom-made demon moon masks from their robes and putting them on. Listen, the sound of the masks falling, it's the breathing of demons. Drip, 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 the sound of dripping water echoed in the dark passage, winding its way into the darkness like the twisted esophagus of a giant python, cold and damp. Several spotted snakes coiled in a corner, flicking their tongues, adding to the eeriness of the passage. At the end of the passage was an iron door, behind which was a fully equipped laboratory. A figure in a white lab coat stood there, holding a vial of extracted blood in his hand. On the adjacent lab table lay a corpse, its chest and abdomen ripped open. Wooden shelves around it were piled high with bottles and jars, various organs and tissues were preserved in the transparent glass containers, and even, in some culture jars as tall as a person, lay half-dead bodies. How is it going? A ghastly pale face, with long, golden, vertical pupils as cold and sinister as a venomous snake, asked hoarsely as the person who entered the room raised half an eye to dissect the corpse. The person who entered wore a hood, their face obscured, only the cold light of the lab lamp reflecting off the glasses. Konoha agreed to Lord Orochimaru's conditions. A gentle voice replied from beneath the hood. Judging by the time, Konoha's forces should have already set off. Chapter 115 Orochimaru's Lecterns? For many years after his defection from Konoha, Orochimaru lived a comfortable life. Freed from the shackles and constraints of Konoha, he could conduct experiments more freely. With a wealthy root organization of Konoha providing secret donations behind the scenes, he had no shortage of experimental materials and funds. Orochimaru secretly built several hidden laboratories, equipped with abundant and advanced equipment. He amassed a considerable fortune and even secretly established a small ninja village, becoming its behind-the-scenes village chief. Think of how many people yearn for their own independent laboratory but can't even build one, yet Orochimaru, at a young age, had already established countless dens of snakes throughout the ninja world. Think of how many people long to inherit the position of village leader but can only dream of it, yet Orochimaru silently built a ninja village from scratch. Everything went smoothly, on track. Both the establishment and development of the ninja village and the scientific research output from the laboratory were progressing in tandem, even at a breakneck pace. At this rate, Orochimaru predicted that in a few years his small ninja village would be able to destroy the neighboring Konoha, and his research on immortality would also achieve significant progress. The rhythm was perfect. Everything was going smoothly until recently, after a trip to Karigakure, the rhythm quietly began to go wrong, and Orochimaru felt his luck was turning against him. First, he lost contact with a root organization in Konoha, then, he nearly died from accidentally tasting blood. Next, the vessel he so desperately wanted seemed to have vanished without a trace, disappearing without a trace. Then, a hidden terrorist organization he had previously joined started holding meetings frequently, acting out of character and showing signs of impending doom, making him want to leave. Finally, his lab's funding dried up a few days ago, and upon inquiring, he learned that his longtime partner and major financier had died. Orochimaru was overwhelmed with grief, chest tightness, and shortness of breath, and had been suffering from insomnia for several nights. But then, his spy planted in Konoha suddenly sent back some shocking good news. The root organization had re-established contact with him and was eager to make a deal. Danzo is dead, so now the one who's going to make a deal with me, acting on behalf of Root, is my former most trusted teacher. How strange things are. Orochimaru recalled how his human experiments were exposed and he was forced to flee the village. Now, after so many years, things have taken a strange turn. A stroke of good fortune? Orochimaru licked his lips, grateful for the wonder of fate, and even more grateful for the sudden appearance of the demon. Demons? Interesting. Is it real or fake? Orochimaru glanced at his hooded subordinate at the door and chuckled sinisterly. Kabuto, what do you think? The man at the door removed his hood, revealing a clean-cut, scholarly face with glasses, a fake smile on his face. I don't know if it's real or fake, but I did witness what happened in Konoha that night. Those hideous monsters and those humanoid creatures that called themselves demons really turned Konoha upside down. And whether humanoid or non-human, they all displayed abilities that were unlike humans, especially possessing terrifying vitality. Calling them demons wouldn't be an exaggeration. Kabuto habitually adjusted his glasses. Non-human vitality, huh? Orochimaru casually plunged his scalpel into a dead corpse, his eyes gleaming with covetousness and curiosity. Whether the demon is real or not must be judged and verified by Lord Orochimaru himself. But I think, regardless of its authenticity, such a creature is most meaningful and valuable only when lying on Lord Orochimaru's experimental table. Kabuto Yakushi understood Orochimaru's lifelong pursuit and sincerely admired and revered Orochimaru's knowledge and philosophy. Kabuto, you're right. Only foolish people limited by their own perspectives would pursue the truth or falsehood of legends. That's not important. What's important is this kind of demon, let's just call it a demon. They may hold the key to human evolution and the path to immortality. That's enough. Orochimaru muttered to himself, casually tossing the dissected remains to the ground. A python slithered over from the corner, opened its mouth, and swallowed the corpse. Where is the agreed time and place? Orochimaru walked to the sink, took off his gloves, and washed his hands. A canyon on the border of the Land of Fire. The time is dusk 5 days from now. Lord Orochimaru, setting off now will be just in time. Kabuto Yakushi replied. Orochimaru dried his hands, took a thin human skin mask from the hanger, and pressed it to his cheek. The mask still bore his face, only at different ages. Any movement from Sasare's side? Orochimaru unbuttoned his white coat, revealing a kimono underneath, its waist lightly tied with a purple robe. Sasare was Orochimaru's teammate in that terrorist organization. They disliked each other but coveted each other's skills. Kabuto Yakushi, meanwhile, played the role of a double agent. Everyone believed Kabuto was a trustworthy subordinate. In short, he was a very busy spy. Lord Sasori hasn't made any moves against Lord Orochimaru recently, but it seems he's also received real information about Konoha from Tsunagakure. He's been focusing on and searching for Hisoka, the rogue ninja from Kusagakure. Kabuto Yakushi, who spends most of his time infiltrating Konoha and is an expert intelligence gatherer, explained, Shimura Danzo was killed by Hisoka, and Hisoka has demonstrated puppet-like abilities. Lord Sasori is very interested in him. Orochimaru didn't pay much attention, only remembering the name Hisoka. He pushed open the laboratory door and went out, preparing to head to the border canyon to receive his gift. A gift from Konoha's route. Leaving Konoha, Fujigaya led the route, traveling light, quickly heading towards the border canyon according to the map. Trailing far behind them were several Anbu members assisting with the operation, led by Kakashi Hatake, who had been late when they set off earlier. He had just gotten lost for the 1001st time at a crossroads in his life. The route organization didn't explain this mission to us at all, making it all so mysterious. For some reason, I have a bad feeling about it. Kakashi scratched his head irritably and said to his fellow Anbu members beside him, keep your guard up the whole way. Route's covert operations are never good. Be careful. The Anbu members were well aware of Route's infamous reputation. They had initially thought that Route would be disbanded after Shimura Danzo's death, but unexpectedly, Route was rapidly rebuilding and had been entrusted with important responsibilities by the Hokage. Now, even their missions required the Anbu to follow and provide support. As long as we don't encounter any demons, it can't be too bad, right? One Anbu member said with a smile, easing the serious atmosphere. Kakashi's heart skipped a beat, his unease intensified. The Anbu didn't know that their current actions were called planting a flag. Yes, they might not encounter demons, but they would. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 is here, they're here. In the Route organization, in a dark dungeon, a headless monster lay motionless on the ground, impaled by steel nails and chains. A huge scroll lay open on the floor, covered in incantations that even spread across its body. These incantations were specially written by Hiruzen Seireitei before Route's departure. 2 copies of the scroll's incantations were made, one was subtly connected to the headless monster's body beneath it, while the other was given to Fujiga. This was a rewritten incantation based on a summoning jutsu, its function being to instantly teleport the headless monster to the location of the other scroll, like a summoned beast. The headless monster's deformed appearance made it unsuitable for public transport. Using a summoning jutsu-like method to deliver the goods to Orochimaru was a safer and more convenient option. You have to admit, Hiruzen Seireitei, known as the Professor of Ninjutsu, was quite skilled. When discussing the entire delivery plan and steps, neither Hiruzen Seireitei nor Fujiga avoided mentioning the headless monster, which the latter felt deeply insulted. The headless monster, unable to move and powerless, lay humiliated on the ground. It was unsure if the organization had forgotten it. Why hadn't they taken it with them when they left? And why, after so many days, had no one come to rescue it? If you don't come soon, I'll be traded away as merchandise by these despicable humans, and then the organization might not be able to find me. The headless monster was terrified. The only thing that gave it a slight sense of relief was that the collar around its neck was still there. The insignificant humans had tried everything to remove it, but to no avail. Right, a few days ago, a man with a head full of weeds tried to peer into its memories. But that man was so stupid, he couldn't bypass the shackles of memory. He could only see a still image, an image that matched the shackles, yet he believed it to be real and tried to have it imprinted on a scroll. Has the organization forgotten me? The headless monster's mind raced. The pain from its numerous wounds didn't bother it, but the thought of abandonment, the moment it surfaced, gnawed at its soul like a persistent leech. At that moment, the headless monster felt the same panic that Akajimori had once experienced, but unfortunately, there was no cold, rational number one in its mind to comfort and console it. Time slowly passed in agony, until one day, the cursed seal on the scroll seemed to be activated, writhing like a living thing, enveloping it. The next instant, it vanished from the dungeon and reappeared in a canyon at dusk. Deep ravines and gorges, the wind howling. A suspension bridge spanned the canyon, its wooden planks creaking, iron chains swaying gently in the air. Below lay a 1,000-foot chasm, the cliffs on either side covered in vines, strangely shaped branches stubbornly sprouting from the crevices of the cliffs. Sunset. Several masked figures stood on the edge of the cliff, gazing silently at the other side of the suspension bridge. After a long while, the clear sound of wind chimes drifted on the wind. A figure shrouded in black clouds and red mist slowly emerged. He wore a conical hat with wind chimes attached, beneath which long, black hair flowed freely. His skin was pale, and he wore magatama-shaped earrings. Purple eyeshadow extended to the sides of his nose, and his long, amber-colored vertical pupils looked coldly at them. Like a sinister viper casually locking onto its prey. Orochimaru. Kakashi Hatake, observing from a distance, suddenly narrowed his eyes. No wonder Root hadn't revealed a single word about the mission. Their movements were secretive and furtive, and they had even needed the Anbu to assist them from the shadows. It turned out the mission involved Orochimaru, a Konoha S-rank rogue ninja. At this stage, the Akatsuki organization was still hidden beneath the surface, and Kakashi didn't recognize the terrifying meaning behind the black clouds and red mist. What is Root trying to do? No, I should say, what is the Hokage trying to do? Kakashi Hatake's face behind his mask darkened. He gestured to the Anbu, signaling everyone to be on high alert. Although Orochimaru appeared alone, the terror of some people cannot be measured simply by numbers. Root is meeting with Orochimaru. Kakashi's mind raced. He wasn't naive enough to think Root was there to arrest Orochimaru. With just a few Root members plus the Anbu hidden behind them, it was hard to say who was surrounding whom if they all went head-to-head with Orochimaru. If they're not here to arrest him, they can't possibly be trying to persuade Orochimaru to return to the village. So it can only be some shady deal with Orochimaru? Kakashi thought to himself, gently moving his headband to reveal his signature Sharingan, his eyes fixed intently on the scene. As he expected, the moment Orochimaru appeared, Root jumped off the cliff and stood on the suspension bridge. Fujiga stood at the forefront, removing his Root mask and pulling a scroll from his robes. He placed the scroll on the ground and whispered a few words to Orochimaru on the opposite side. The distance was too great for Kakashi to hear clearly, and because they were facing away from each other, the Anbu couldn't read his words through lip reading. Kakashi only saw Fujiga quickly form hand seals, pressing his hands onto the scroll. The seals on the scroll then spread out, forming a huge pattern on the ground. Kakashi could vaguely recognize parts of the pattern. It resembled a summoning jutsu seal, but it seemed different. Then, He saw a cloud of white mist explode, and a dark, menacing figure was summoned from the scroll. Severed bone wings studded with steel nails, bound by layers of chains, and its body covered in cursed seals, a strange collar rested around its headless neck. It was none other than the headless monster imprisoned in the root dungeon, the watchdog. The headless monster was unaware of what was happening. The cold mountain wind and the afterglow of the setting sun shone upon it, and the collar around its neck flickered imperceptibly, its diffused frequency transmitted through the air. On the other side of the suspension bridge, Orochimaru gently removed his hat, his snake-like eyes fixed intently on the headless monster. This was indeed a creature he had never seen before. He had seen headless creatures before, but a headless creature that could still live was a rare sight. Without hesitation, Orochimaru walked to the other side of the suspension bridge. Fujigaya and the root members subtly took 2 steps back, giving Orochimaru some distance. In the distance, Kakashi, nestled in the woods, felt a pang of unease. He finally understood what Root had come for, and the meaning behind Hiro's and Sarutobi's meaningful glance when he gave him his mission. Root is going to hand this demon over to the rogue ninja Orochimaru. Kakashi felt a deep unease. He couldn't jump out, nor could he stop them, but a chilling thought involuntarily surfaced in his mind. If only things went wrong with Root's deal with Orochimaru. At the top of the canyon, 2 pairs of straw sandals stood on the edge of the cliff. Rinjiabare clutched a frequently flashing signal receiver, a matching piece to the headless monster's collar. Finally here. Rinjiabare looked down, a savage, excited grin spreading across his face. He stretched out an arm, loosened his grip, and let the white receiver fall freely. Beside him, Byakuya Ayakatsuki stood indifferently, looking down at the scene, a few cherry blossom petals drifting down in the wind. Happy Children's Day, everyone. Good night, see you tomorrow, hoping for good results, Muwa. Chapter 117 Roar, Zabumaru. Have you ever seen a headless zombie? I have. Orochimaru's pale face contorted with a morbid excitement. He stretched out his hand, adorned with black painted nails, and caressed the grotesque body before him as if he were caressing a lover. His nails scraped back and forth along the smooth, severed neck, wisps of chakra seeping from his fingers, coursing through the neck, touching and feeling. His advanced scientific knowledge and biological understanding honed through thousands of dissections allowed him to glean valuable information even from touching the skin. In his mind, the headless monster's internal structure appeared like an image. Of course, this was just speculation. The actual situation would require dissection and observation. Fortunately, this monster possessed extremely strong regenerative abilities and immortality, allowing for repeated dissections. This was the material every researcher dreamed of. If Konoha had possessed this material back then, why would he have needed to defect from the village? A kunai fell from his sleeve, which he gripped and plunged into the headless monster's body. He then pulled it out, revealing a triangular wound from which black blood gushed out, quickly healing. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed, his heart filled with mixed emotions. He analyzed the bone monster's temperature, humidity, texture, skin, and signs of life before turning to Fujigaya and saying softly, "You call this thing a demon? How, that's quite fitting." The headless monster remained bound and unable to move, trembling as it felt the scratching nails and caresses on its neck, as if it were reliving its first encounter with Mayuri Kuratsuchi. That day, a similar scene unfolded. The snake-like human before it possessed a very similar aura to Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who had put a collar on it. The difference was that Mayuri had quickly lost interest and abandoned it, while this person seemed extremely interested in it. The headless monster didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Its inner turmoil grew exponentially. If possible, it truly wished it had never left the box of Elysium. The outside world was too terrifying. Yes, they call themselves demons. Some high-level demons can disguise themselves as humans. These deformed demons seem to be relatively lower level, but they also exhibit various incredible characteristics. Fujitani explained to Orochimaru, who seemed to have a necrophiliac tendencies, as if reciting a script. According to the agreed-upon deal, the demon has been delivered to you. Root will no longer concern themselves with how you handle it. However, you must share all your research findings on this demon with Root regularly. Orochimaru's lips stretched into an exaggerated grin, his wet tongue licking his lips. He glanced at the Anbu hiding in the woods with a half-smile, then agreed to Fujitani's request. Double-crossing, swallowing the goods? No need. Shimura Danzo is dead, but Konoha Root is still operating. Orochimaru is willing to maintain a good cooperative relationship with Konoha. Then, I'll accept it. Orochimaru reluctantly withdrew his fingers, looking down at the cursed seal on the scroll. He only glanced at it briefly before understanding the general principle of this summoning jutsu. He disdained this crude method of transfer. He had a better, more portable way. He formed hand seals, summoning a giant python on the spot, and then manipulated the python to open its mouth and swallow the headless monster whole. Saliva dripped from the enormous mouth, and the headless monster was filled with despair. Fujige led the root team to turn and retreat. Kakashi, in the forest, sighed helplessly and prepared to quietly retreat as well. At least, the mission was safe, an Anbu member said in a low voice to ease the atmosphere. Something's falling. Another Anbu member looked up, somewhat suspiciously, at a white object falling freely from the top of the canyon. There's someone up there. Kakashi was stunned for a moment, his Sharingan spinning, and a black figure appeared in his retina. In the blink of an eye, the figure surpassed the falling white object and plummeted from the sky. Hot blood splattered, forming a crimson circle on the thick snake's body. Then the huge snake head was severed, crashing smoothly to the ground, a ferocious snake head still with a mouth. Blood gushed from the severed wound like a fountain, bathing a figure in crimson robes. He recklessly let the blood wash over him, his serpent-tailed sword greedily drinking in the blood, staining the blade crimson. Thud. The severed snake's body crashed to the ground, dust billowing. Another figure in black robes silently stepped on the snake's body, radiating an almost tangible aura. The spurting snake blood seemed to be pushed aside by the invisible air, deliberately avoiding the straw sandals beneath, not daring to stain the pristine Shinigami attire. The air seemed to freeze. The dust settled, revealing Kachiki Byakui's indifferent and calm face. His hands hung casually at his sides, ignoring the overt and covert wary and horrified gazes, only glancing indifferently at the headless monster. Imprisoned in the penitentiary palace, 400 years for sins. Kachiki Byakuya said calmly. Kachiki Byakuya spoke sparingly, his tone chilling as he proclaimed the judgment from the Seireitei. The pronouncement seemed to be just a step in the punishment process, not an explanation to those around them, but merely a pronouncement to the headless monster, a necessary ritual. Imprisoned and sent to the Palace of Repentance, 400 years for the crime? Orochimaru immediately dodged the falling head and snake-like body, retreating a few steps, his eyes dark and dangerous as he looked at the two uninvited guests. He didn't understand a single word of their greeting. Who are you? Fujige, who was about to leave, stopped and turned around, coldly voicing the question on everyone's mind. The headless monster was bewildered, its brain unable to process the situation, but it recognized Kachiki Shiro's attire, the same style as Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru. The organization had come to rescue it. Abare Rinji ignored Fujige's question, utterly disdainful of answering. He lightly leaped onto the headless monster's body, his blood-stained blade slashing downwards. Crack! One by one, the binding chains were severed, sliding from the headless monster's body to its sides. The headless monster swayed, trying to deflect the chains, but the steel nails driven into its bones still prevented it from moving much. What are you doing? Stop him! Fujige was the first to react, leaping up angrily, his hands firing kunai at Rinji Abare's brow, throat, and chest. How? Rinji Abare deflected the kunai with his sword, not afraid but rather pleased. He recited the script that Byakuya Kachiki had forced him to memorize on the way. Snarling without missing a word, although the regulations don't allow us to harm people in this world, if you obstruct our law enforcement mission, the situation is different. As soon as he finished speaking, Rinji Abare took a step forward, instantly appearing in front of Fujige, his scabbard raised and pressed against Fujige's chest. The latter was sent flying backward faster than he had lunged, his ribs seemingly cracking. The surrounding roots attacked simultaneously, raining down kunai and ninjutsu. Abare Rinji stood still, his right hand gripping his sword horizontally, his left palm lightly brushing over the hilt, uttering his signature line, Roar, Zabumaru. P.S. My writing style is more detailed, I like to explain everything clearly. I can't jump directly to the climax without any build-up. Also, each chapter explains many clues, since it's a behind-the-scenes story with many characters, and I want to portray them all with some sophistication. I can't just skip everything and jump straight into the action, my writing skills are indeed limited. Also, regarding the climax at release. I hadn't thought about that. After all, I only released it after 260,000 words, which is quite late. The first major plot point has already passed, and moving on to the next one definitely requires some build-up. Trying to create a climax on the release day would be too rushed. I'm really out of ideas. This has always been my writing style. I wanted to change it to a fast-paced, plot-driven style, but that would just leave the writing dry and meaningless, and you'd all say it's nonsensical. My writing skills are limited, sorry. I sincerely apologize for adding an extra chapter to express my deepest regret regarding my writing ability and style. Chapter 118: The figure that descends from the painting into reality. A streak of red light flashed, the jet-black blade and the stark white edge jagged and serrated. It lashed out eerily like a whip, like a ferocious centipede or a twisting snake, suddenly cleaving through the wind. The serrated blade devoured chunks of fresh flesh with a bloodlust. Kune were shredded by the blade, and the root members who had pounced on them were sent flying in a fan shape, their clothes torn and bloody, revealing gruesome white bones and gaping wounds. Abare Rinji wasn't a bloodthirsty person, he had simply been sealed in the river of time for too long, so long that the musty smell in his soul needed to be washed away with blood. Zabimaru roared. A familiar yet strange breath, a familiar yet strange body, a familiar yet strange world. Everything was different, but the smell of blood in the air was still the same. Rinji Abare laughed wildly, brandishing the Zabimaru sword. The blade, its segments stretching like limbs, roared through the air, the chains extending from its blade swaying and emitting a teeth-grinding scraping sound. The heavily wounded root members stared in horror at the constantly extending and winding sword in the air. They had never seen such a bizarre sword, it truly seemed like a snake being wielded by that man, ready to devour its prey. In an instant, Root was wiped out in one round. Anbu members shot out from the forest, blocking Rinji Abare's sword. Kakashi Hatake gripped his kune tightly, crackling with electricity. His scalp tingled as he stared intently at the sword swirling and dancing in midair. As if responding to Kakashi's prayer, the deal between Root and Orochimaru had indeed gone awry, but he felt no joy. Instead, he sank to the bottom of a deep abyss. A serpentine blade, snaking like a living, ferocious creature, hovered above his head, giving him an extremely dangerous feeling. But what terrified him even more was another figure, standing indifferently and silently atop the snake's body. It's the person from that painting, the one among the 13 figures. Kakashi had been fortunate enough to participate in the meeting of Konoha's higher-ranking officials. Although he hadn't spoken a word throughout, he had carefully examined the contents of the painting. The contents of the painting were the headless monster's deepest memories, and that person was the most terrifying figure in the headless monster's memories, Kuchiki. Kakashi only knew half of that name. It actually appeared? Kakashi's heart was filled with shock. The person in the painting, no, it should be said, the person from the headless monster's memories has appeared. It had descended upon the reality before his eyes in a way that caught Kakashi off guard, yet seemed perfectly reasonable. The suddenness of the appearance stemmed from its complete absence. Konoha hadn't yet reached a definitive conclusion regarding the scroll's contents, nor did they know where to find the other party, yet the other party had suddenly appeared. The plausibility lay in the fact that the scroll contained the headless monster's memories, and the person had come because of the headless monster, so their appearance here was only to be expected. This thing has harmed many lives in Konoha. Although I don't know who you are, your audacity in trying to steal it without explanation is far too domineering. Kakashi was extremely wary and cautious. Although his words were accusatory, a clear undercurrent of weakness and an attempt to reason was evident. The strong do not accuse the weak of being domineering. That is the exclusive right of the weak. Byakuya Kuchiki glanced indifferently at Kakashi, his eyes icy cold. The instant their eyes met, Kakashi felt as if his entire body had been pierced through. That gaze penetrated his very soul, almost freezing it. Cold, a coldness that pierced his very soul. Your eyes tell me you've seen me before? Though phrased with doubt, the tone was undeniably certain. Kakashi Hatake felt a chill run down his spine. Just as alarm bells rang in his mind, as if he could smell death brushing against his ear, Byakuya Kuchiki withdrew his gaze, his expression indifferent, seemingly uninterested in the question. Similarly, Kakashi received no answer or information from Byakuya. This was an absolutely taciturn, aloof, and cold person. If, under that human skin, there truly was a human. Byakuya coldly stared at the headless monster, his white gloved hand pointing forward. Terrifying spiritual pressure condensed into beams of lightning, piercing the headless monster's body. The headless monster screamed in agony, its body riddled with holes, the embedded steel nails shattering and flying out. It howled in pain, daring not to retaliate, waiting for its body to heal. It immediately got up and walked behind Byakuya. Lightning? Kakashi Hatake smelled the scorching air. The trees and cliffs in the distance were riddled with holes. He looked at the arc of electricity in his hand, which sounded like a bird's cry, and swallowed hard. Stulit? Rinjiabare scoffed, flicking his wrist. The Zabimaru roared and slammed down on Kakashi's head. Kakashi dodged quickly, the ground being ripped open with gashes of varying depths, sending debris flying. It was just a vicious dog kept by Captain Kachiki. It ran off and made a mistake, so it should be caught and taught a lesson. It's not the place of a bunch of stupid humans. Rinji was about to speak again when Byakuya Kachiki coldly stopped him. The latter awkwardly scratched his head, flicked his wrist, and the Zabimaru, like a giant python raising its head, its menacing, segmented blades aimed at Kakashi and the other Anbu. Get out of the way. This is the last warning. Rinjiabare said menacingly. Konoha has already given me the goods. This thing is mine now, and I'm very interested in it. I have no intention of giving it to anyone. A sinister, hoarse voice broke in. Orochimaru, who had been listening for a while, licked his lips with interest. He could tell that Kakashi was quite wary of these two uninvited guests, and there seemed to be some secret hidden behind it that he didn't know. Orochimaru was very interested. The secret had piqued his curiosity, and the headless monster was already experimental material he had accepted. No one could take it away. Not only that, if those two were related to this demon, then perhaps he should also keep them here. Orochimaru was greedy and confident. Greed knows no bounds, and he was the snake himself. Orochimaru sneered sinisterly, his hands slamming into the ground in a sudden hand seal. A surge of chakra coursed through the earth, causing it to churn and churn like mud. Thick, venomous pythons burst from the ground, their bodies erect and densely packed, like countless spears aimed at Kachiki Byakuya. Countless snakeheads frantically flicked their venomous tongues, their foul-smelling fangs biting at every part of Kachiki Byakuya's body. Although Kachiki Byakuya hadn't yet made a move, Orochimaru, almost without hesitation, determined that Kachiki Byakuya was the more dangerous one. He would deal with Kachiki Byakuya, the seemingly ruthless, sword-wielding charlatan would be left to Kakashi. Afterwards, he could give Kakashi a scathing look to take back to Konoha. The moment Orochimaru attacked, Kakashi gave him a knowing look. The latter gritted his teeth. He had no choice but to lunge at Abare Rinji, the leader of the alliance, caught completely off guard. Author's note: I was just setting a flag. I didn't actually expect anyone to give me tips, nor did I think I'd need to add extra chapters. Wow. Shocking. The boss is so generous. Happy Children's Day, boss. I've created a VIP group. 581,320,802, for watering the old tree. To join, screenshot your fan points, subscribe to all today's chapters, or reach 200 fan points. Please, esteemed patrons, join the group and claim your admin slot. Chapter 119 Kakashi, is he evenly matched? Beneath a broken tree, Fujitani's chest was caved in, 2 ribs broken. He struggled to roll over, half paralyzed against a broken tree, watching the heavily injured root members lying on the ground in the distance, instantly torn to pieces by the giant snake formation that burst from the ground. These were all subordinates he had carefully selected from root for this mission. Fujitani's eyes were bloodshot, his vocal cords and throat constricted, emitting a painful howl, but he wouldn't go forward. He was powerless, only able to slump in the distance watching this fierce battle, silently cheering for his people. Kakashi was bitter. He had originally wanted to try to reason with the other side, but Orochimaru had simply rolled up his sleeves and attacked. Now he had no choice but to bite the bullet and go for it. He couldn't just hand over the headless monster. Fire release, great fire dragon technique. Kakashi quickly formed hand seals, opened his mouth, and spewed out a fire dragon, surging towards the swing, lashing snake tail. The fire dragon was severed in two, the serrated blade, still scorching hot, hooking around Kakashi's waist and cruelly pulling him back. Crack! His waist twisted into a pretzel, shattering into several pieces of wood. Abare Rinji sneered, raising his arm to sheath his sword, the curved snake tail retracting with lightning speed. A strange trick, but the fluctuations of the soul cannot be concealed. Abare Rinji grinned maliciously, slashing the ground with his sword. A tearing roar echoed through the air, the ground beneath his feet cracking and splitting open with a force so powerful it was like a bomb exploding underground. A violent explosion surged up from beneath the ground, instantly shattering rocks and sending dust billowing everywhere. Kakashi, preparing to ambush from underground, felt the surrounding mud and rocks pressing in frantically, the rock above his head crumbling layer by layer. The monstrous blade pierced the ground, its chilling light aimed directly at his head. A mental decapitation technique? It was about to sever his own head. Cold sweat beaded on Kakashi's forehead. His Sharingan spun wildly, one eye fixed on the menacing blade that had invaded his vision. He raised both hands, clenching his kunai tightly, and then swung them forward rapidly, each strike precisely hitting the protruding section of Zabimaru's blade. As if rehearsed, the kunai and blade locked together perfectly, like a surging black wave crashing into a monstrous centipede. Sparks flew amidst the clanging sounds, leaping onto the surrounding rubble. Kakashi's face was covered in ash, and his muscles were bruised and battered. He gritted his teeth, enduring the pain, feeling like a leaf bobbing and swaying in a muddy wave, yet the stronger and more violent the wave, the faster he dodged. Just as the blade stopped retracting, Kakashi used the momentum to stomp on the falling gravel and dirt, seemingly leaping out of the ground. Simultaneously, he braced himself with his hands, twisting his entire body into a single rope, and launched a low kick, his heel slamming into Abare-Rinji's chin. Taijutsu, Shadow Dance Leaf. Crack. His jaw trembled, his jaw muscles and teeth groaning as they collided. His head felt like it had been hit by a hammer, his ears ringing. Abare-Rinji was sent flying straight into the air. Kakashi pushed off with his feet, his trousers taut, ready to launch himself. But the next moment they abruptly stopped, their bodies retreating backward. The blade, connected by a high-strength steel cable, sliced across the tip of Abare-Rinji's nose, spinning and contracting as it was pulled back into the sky. Rinji was still flying backwards, but his body had stabilized, his neck slowly tucking downwards, his chin, stained with shoe dust, pointing towards the ground. Kakashi's entire body ached, with multiple muscle and bone bruises. He wiped the dust from his face, staring at the figure in the sky, his heart growing heavier. Shadow Dance Leaf had intended to unleash a combo, but unexpectedly, after only the first kick, the opponent's consciousness returned almost instantly, truly terrifying resilience. A heavy blow to the chin can cause temporary dizziness, that's common medical knowledge, but the one who flew backward seemed to have an exceptionally hard jawbone. An aura of resilience defying medical norms, a strange and unpredictable blade, and a sensory ability that seems to see right through my hiding places, beneath this human skin disguise. It's probably a non-human creature. Kakashi's unease grew stronger. A ninja's methods of killing are designed with humans as targets, but against non-human entities, many attacks are ineffective. Experience and judgment inevitably lead to significant errors, and in a life-or-death battle, even a slight misjudgment can be fatal. This was already evident in their unpreparedness and helplessness against the demons, and now, something similar was happening again? Kakashi was filled with resentment. He wasn't like my guy, relying on brute force and reflexes, he relied more on intelligence analysis and tactical countermeasures. He was a ninja who fought with his brain. I must admit, human of this world, you have enraged me. Abare-Rinji didn't have as many brain cells as Kakashi, he simply felt humiliated and furious. After countless years, he had returned to the human world to carry out a mission with Captain Kachiki, and yet, he had once again been injured by a human. But this time, he wouldn't make the same mistake again. Abare-Rinji wiped the dust from his chin, spat out a mouthful of blood, and gritted his teeth, unleashing a chilling killing intent. Roar, Baboon King Zabimaru. Similar lines, but the scene was different, an upgraded spectacle. Kakashi looked up at the sky and saw Abare-Rinji plummeting to the ground, the sword in his hand violently expanding and writhing, visibly transforming into a terrifying behemoth. Suddenly, a low hissing sound, the ground churned, and a giant python covered in thorny blades blinked, coiling tightly around Abare-Rinji's body, circling the ground several times. The blade transformed completely into a gigantic, segmented snake body, while the tip became a grotesque skull snake head, surrounded by a ring of bright red fur, an indescribably eerie sight. The snake's eyes were dark yellow, and its jaws were clenched, reaching a length of 3 meters, swaying as it aimed at Kakashi. Now, the sword has completely become a snake monster. Kakashi was utterly dumbfounded. This transformation was completely beyond his comprehension. The appearance of demons was at least grounded in mythology, but this sword had changed again and again, ultimately becoming a gigantic, seemingly living, grotesque snake. His mind was sluggish with shock. Kakashi couldn't express his emotions. He stared at the terrifying skull snake head, which, despite being inanimate, emanated a strange aura, as if a real giant snake were breathing out a pressure that instilled fear in the soul. Kakashi had no doubt that even if the giant snake closed its mouth halfway, it would be enough to swallow him whole. Without even considering the strength of the sword or the snake, judging solely from visual impressions, Kakashi didn't think he, on their first meeting, had any chance of winning. Not to mention the several Anbu members standing behind him, each with mouths wide enough to fit a fist. Kakashi felt a chill run down his spine, unsure if he had somehow managed to hold off one of Orochimaru's enemies. He glanced at Orochimaru out of the corner of his eye for help, but the scene that met his gaze sent a shiver down his spine. There was no sign of Orochimaru, only a stiff, ugly corpse remained, and cherry blossoms drifting down from who knows where. Chapter 120. Did you see the cherry blossoms fall? A few blinks or breaths ago, Orochimaru launched his attack. He summoned a swarm of snakes to guard him, and charged forward with overwhelming force. Then, his sword flashed, and with a single slash, countless snake heads were severed. Regardless of length or thickness, they were all cut off at the same level, spurting blood into a fountain. The neatly arranged snake heads sprayed to the ground, while the severed bodies remained upright, not yet reacting. Orochimaru suddenly stepped out from the pile of upright snake corpses, and with a wave of his hand, countless venomous snakes emerged from his sleeve, continuing to bite at Kachiki Byakuya. Kachiki Byakuya stood still, his right hand raised. Hado 31, Red Fire Cannon. A blinding red fireball instantly materialized, shooting out and incinerating all the venomous snakes, its momentum undiminished as it crashed into Orochimaru. The upright snake carcass was burned, Orochimaru within turning into a puddle of mud. Then, sinister laughter echoed from all directions, reaching Kachiki Byakuya's ears. With each laugh, a bundle of snakes, hissing and snarling, spewed from the ground and from Orochimaru's constantly moving sleeves, their open mouths engulfing and biting at Kachiki Byakuya. The air was instantly filled with a stench of snake blood. Kachiki Byakuya's indifferent face furrowed slightly. He looked at the blood-soaked ground beneath his feet. There was barely any room left to step. Snakes were everywhere, snake flesh, snake blood, snake charcoal, splattered everywhere. Kachiki Byakuya coldly surveyed his surroundings, feeling that the guy opposite him was like a walking snake pit, his fighting style truly perverse and disgusting. Are you afraid of getting stained with blood? That won't do. Blood holds all the secrets of living beings. With a sinister laugh, Orochimaru suddenly emerged from a pool of snake flesh, his alluring neck stretching like a rubber band, his mouth widening dramatically. A curled tongue wrapped around the hilt of a sword, and the long, narrow Kusanagi sword emerged from his esophagus, shooting out with a sudden, extended thrust towards Kachiki Byakuya's back. Too filthy. Kachiki Byakuya lost his patience. According to the script Nami had given him, he was supposed to play around with Orochimaru for a few more rounds. After all, no matter how aloof and indifferent a character is, the performance time still needs to be guaranteed. But, a white hori stained with foul-smelling blood is no longer clean. Kachiki Byakuya frowned. Before setting off, he had learned about Nami's personality and quirks from Mayuri Kuratsuchi, or rather, Mayuri had tirelessly repeated them to him over and over again. The text explained in detail the profound significance of the script and the performance, which concerned the interests of the 13 Gotei 13, every Shinigami, and the restoration of the Seireitei's glory. Kachiki Byakuya might not have fully understood, but as the 28th head of the ancient Kachiki family, a noble clan of the Seireitei, and the captain of the 6th division of the 13 Gotei 13, he naturally fulfilled his duties. Moreover, a pinhole camera was hidden in the hair-binding sash of his head, an automatic camera manufactured by Mayuri Kuratsuchi, capable of recording each member's performance in real time. If the performance is to be shortened, then the curtain call must be more spectacular. Mayuri Kuratsuchi's words echoed in Kachiki Byakuya's mind. He wondered if Mayuri had foreseen that the stage scene would be exceptionally filthy today. With his back to Orochimaru, Kachiki Byakuya casually glanced at Rinji Ibari, who had caused such a commotion, the instant the Kusanagi sword pierced his back. Magnificent or grand? Byakuya Kachiki murmured to himself, his figure vanishing from his spot in an instant. His speed was so fast that there wasn't even a ripple in the air. He seemed to have disappeared from Orochimaru's sight entirely. The Kusanagi sword missed its mark, the long, winding neck frozen in midair. Orochimaru felt a chill run down his spine. He abruptly turned his head and, sure enough, saw a figure standing just a step behind him. Thank goodness, the other person's sword hadn't been thrust at him. Instead, it was held upright as if in a daze, its reflection serenely in his pupils. Scattered, Senbenzakura. The poetic and beautiful lines were softly uttered. Orochimaru, however, felt a chill run from the soles of his feet straight to his head. His scalp tingled, and goosebumps rose all over his body. His body had sensed death, his instincts screaming a warning. Orochimaru had never felt such terrifying fear. This wasn't just a warning from his body, the chill of death seemed to pierce directly into his soul. Run. Forget about being an experimental subject. If he didn't escape now, he might be the one lying on the dissection table. He absolutely couldn't be cut by that blade. He would die. What a joke. Orochimaru refused to believe it. An exaggerated, sinister grin spread across his lips, his snake-like eyes fixed on the blade before him. He wanted to see with his own eyes how this blade would kill him. A strong person would not succumb to instinctive fear. He held his breath, staring intently. He could feel the surrounding air thickening, a terrifying and eerie aura emanating from the blade. And so, Orochimaru watched with his own eyes as the sword, inch by inch, was stained pink, silently dissolving in the wind, transforming into countless tiny, withered cherry blossom petals. Seemingly slow, yet incredibly fast, they drifted with the wind, carrying the wind, swirling and engulfing him, blanketing him from all sides. It was beautiful. Like cherry blossoms suddenly withering at their peak, possessing a tranquil and poignant beauty, yet concealing a chilling killing intent. The more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it is. Orochimaru didn't have time to ponder how the sword had scattered into falling cherry blossoms. This question, if he survived, he could leave it as a research topic for later. Now, all around him was filled with cherry blossoms, silently, like a beautiful painting, enveloping him. Come forth, Manda. Orochimaru pressed his hands to the ground, which suddenly cracked open, revealing a gigantic snake head. Its massive body, adorned with black spots and purple stripes, stretched 100 meters long. Its sheer size created a whistling wind. The colossal, terrifying snake's body even surpassed the size of the baboon king, Hashiramaru, standing beside it. Manda glanced instinctively at the skeletal snake head, completely ignoring the petals falling against the wind that surrounded it. Just as it was about to open its mouth to demand a sacrifice from Orochimaru, it saw Orochimaru himself enter its mouth, falling into its long, narrow esophagus. Manda was stunned. The next instant, the falling petals covered Manda's enormous body. All the doubts in its mind vanished like melting flesh, leaving only blood-stained petals seeping into its flesh. In the blink of an eye, only an emaciated skeleton remained. Then, the skeleton turned to dust. What fell from the sky weren't cherry blossoms, but countless tiny, sharp blades, spinning, cutting, and slowly torturing everything of flesh and soul they touched. In the dissipating wind, only the hastily discarded remains of a husk remained. P.S. My drafts. VIP Group 581,320,802. Join the group and show a screenshot of 200 plus fan points, or subscribe to all chapters released today. Alliance leaders, please directly message the author for a management position upon joining the group. Chapter 121. The world has become more frightening and unknown, but also more interesting. Manda, appear. Manda, die. The massive serpent bones crumbled into dust, revealing a solitary, naked corpse, shivering amidst the falling cherry blossoms. Its open, dark mouth was an empty, dark void, as if a corpse had just crawled out of it. Its toothless, pale lips were smeared with a viscous liquid. Kakashi inadvertently turned his head, and this was the scene that greeted his eyes. His mouth instinctively opened into an O shape, his Sharingan frantically searching for Orochimaru's whereabouts. Empty, nowhere to be found. Kakashi felt as if his heart had been bitten by a venomous snake, a sharp, absurd rage washing over him, followed by a chilling indignation. It was like your teammate forcibly charging into a fight, forcing you to rush in to meet them, only to have them vanish in an instant, leaving only a husk and yourself trapped in the encirclement. Shock. Despair. A chilling dread. Kakashi's throat was dry. He wasn't sure if he'd caught a glimpse of Manda out of the corner of his eye, but he saw a skull-like snake coiled before him, behind which was Rinjiabere's malicious grin, and cherry blossom petals seemingly about to drift away on the wind. "Are you distracted?" An annoyed laugh pierced his ears. Kakashi jerked his head up, a gaping while blocking out the light. The next instant, he was swallowed whole. In the dark, winding passage, it felt like truly falling into the esophagus of a venomous python, except instead of digestive juices, he was met with piercing blades. Slices of flesh were brutally torn away. Under the threat of death, Kakashi's Sharingan spun wildly, the tomo forming blurry images, as if some pattern was vaguely emerging from the depths of his eyes, yet remaining indistinct. Veins bulged on his forehead, chakra surged to his arms, and sharp bolts of lightning, like blades, swiftly sliced through the snake's walls, bursting forth from within. His chest, arms, waist, and legs were all slashed open, bloody gashes revealing gruesome white flesh and exposed, stark white bones. Damn it, I was distracted in the middle of the battle. Kakashi was frantic. Pain and blood loss made his consciousness hazy. He had made such a basic mistake, or Orochimaru's fancy maneuvering had deeply shocked his soul. "Let's go." Byakuya Akatsuki, holding the newly formed Senbonzakura, swiftly sheathed it. Rinjiabere released his Benkei, his hand flashing as the eerie snake-like blade retracted back to its initial shape. With a powerful leap, he launched himself like a cannonball into Kakashi's arms. Thud. Like being charged at the chest by a raging bull, Kakashi felt a blade on his chest tremble, his internal organs heightened by his ribs groaning. Then, a sharp pain shot through his jaw as the hilt of Zabimaru's sword struck him squarely in the chin. His teeth and jaw clashed, his alveolar ridges vibrated, and a wave-like vibration instantly traveled along his jaw muscles and skull to his cerebellum. The nerves in his brain instantly entered a state of delayed paralysis, and his consciousness plummeted into a state of dizziness, his vision going black. This was the reaction that humans should experience, conforming to physical and medical principles, commonly known as fainting. Kakashi's body leaned backward, and his chin seemed to be struck again from the front. The two consecutive impacts caused an electric shock-like paralysis in his brain, and he sank into deep unconsciousness. Rinjiabere sheathed his sword. Watching Kakashi fly backward like a corpse, crashing through trees and landing unconscious in a bizarre position. Only then did he reluctantly sheath his sword, pursing his lips disdainfully, such a fragile body. Byakuya Akatsuki remained indifferent, ignoring Rinji's words. He glanced silently at the distant woods, then pulled a return scroll from his sleeve and tore it open with a ripping sound. At this moment, the afterglow of the setting sun was obscured by the canyon, and the dark sky crept in. A beam of golden light silently pierced the clouds, plummeting down like a cylindrical membrane enveloping the two people and the monster, then slowly narrowing inwards. The black and white Shinigami uniform moved without wind. Byakuya Akatsuki's eyes were half closed, and the 6th Division insignia on his back emitted a mysterious halo. Rinjiabere looked at the captain's robe with some envy, and then, in the last second before the halo closed, he inexplicably used his sword to pick up Orochimaru's remains that had been thrown to the ground, and slung the sword over his shoulder. The headless monster quietly lowered its neck. Although it had probably been rescued by the organization, it wanted to erase its presence as much as possible, preferably without making a sound. The halo closed and disappeared. Two people and one monster disappeared along with it. The wind rustled. A figure quickly ran out of the distant woods, wearing a hood and a mask. He walked over, squatted down, and checked Kakashi's breath, confirming that the latter was indeed unconscious and not dead. Then, he glanced at Fujiga, who was half paralyzed on the ground with broken ribs and staring at him silently. He thought for a moment, then green chakra surged from his hands. He used healing jutsu to stop Kakashi's bleeding, then went over to bandage Fujiga's broken ribs. At that moment, deep underground, a giant python with a bloated belly crawled out, its fleshy interior piercing through the Kusanagi sword, easily slicing open the flesh. Orochimaru, covered in slime and looking utterly disheveled, crawled out. Pain. Excruciating, bone-deep pain. The pain seemed not to spread from the body, but rather permeated from the deepest part of the soul, overwhelming the senses that returned to the body. His already pale face was now completely devoid of color, as white as a corpse. Beads of sweat poured from Orochimaru's face, his exaggeratedly wide mouth greedily breathing, his voice hoarse and heavy. Lord Orochimaru, you, the hooded man, his face hidden, strode towards Orochimaru, his eyes filled with suspicion and uncertainty. In his vision, Orochimaru's body didn't show any particularly horrifying injuries, only a few scattered cuts, looking like small razor blades that didn't even need bandaging or hemostasis. However, Orochimaru's expression suggested he was suffering severe torment, his breathing and heartbeat out of control. Orochimaru let out a sinister laugh, like a snake flicking its tongue, a laugh suppressing a hint of mad fear, yet containing 9 parts curiosity and covetousness. Power that directly affects the soul, huh? That sword and that guy. This world seems to have suddenly become more interesting. His snake-like amber vertical pupils trembled, fear and excitement intertwined in an eerie light. Orochimaru stared at the fine, mottled cuts on his skin, the torn flesh emitting a deathly gray hue like that of a corpse. What is this? Kabuto's face beneath his mask froze in horror as he looked at Orochimaru. Whether it's a headless demon, a sword capable of bizarre transformations, or a person whose depths are unknown, the unknown is always both terrifying and alluring. It seems our research project will have a new topic. Orochimaru didn't directly answer Kabuto's question, but instead let out a sinister laugh. It seems we'll have to ask our friends from Konoha to come back with us. They might know something that interests me. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 giant pythons burst from the ground, opening their blood-red maws and swallowing Fujigeya and Kakashi whole. Thank you for the following donations: 5,000 points, 1,500 points, 1,500 points, TT, 1,500 points, 1,500 points, 3,000 points, 1,500 points, 3,000 points, 1,500 points, 200 points, and 500 points. Chapter 122 The encroaching darkness descends upon the Sound Village. You have achieved the achievement, Orochimaru's resentment. Orochimaru's resentment, you are the vessel that haunts his dreams. You have collected his remains time and time again. He drank your blood, and his soul was stabbed by your subordinates. His misfortune began when he met you. When will it end? P.S. When he learns that the source of all his misfortune is you, have you thought about how to face him? Achievement points 1000. The cool night breeze blew, carrying Orochimaru's greeting. The darkness gradually encroached upon Atagakure. At the quiet village entrance, several figures shrouded in darkness slowly emerged. All were dressed in black, wearing demon moon masks, except for one who showed his true face. He had slightly wavy black hair that fell across his face, a tall and slender figure, and wore a crisp suit with a perfectly pressed white tie. He wore a white top hat and carried a black cane. He exuded an air of British aristocracy that seemed completely out of place in this world, which was understandable, since he shouldn't belong here in the first place. Behind him, a demon moon held an umbrella for him. Night, black umbrella, black suit, Muzan Kibutsuji had arrived. Looks like the script over there has ended early. Muzan Kibutsuji saw the notification appear on his retina and immediately understood that Byakuya Akatsuki and Orochimaru had met. Moreover, if nothing unexpected happened, Orochimaru had given him another gift, which Rinji Abare had picked up. It couldn't have been Byakuya Akatsuki who picked it up. He and Gin Ichimaru both seemed to have a cleanliness obsession. Let's begin. Muzan Kibutsuji gently twirled his cane and tapped it lightly on the ground. Behind him, demon moons instantly dispersed, transforming into invisible phantoms that merged into the night, silently appearing in every corner of Atagakure with the wind. Who goes there? The sentries at the village entrance had already spotted Muzan Kibutsuji and his group, but before they could observe for more than 2 seconds, they all vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving only a Kazuki holding an umbrella and a man in a suit under the umbrella. Not human, but a demon. A voice suddenly came from behind him, sending chills down the sentry's spine. He whirled around and saw a black mask painted with a blood-red moon filing his vision, and a pair of cold, snake-like eyes looking at him from behind the mask. Don't misunderstand the meaning of this mask next time. The scabbard moved with lightning speed, lightly tapping the latter's temple. Thump. Several heavy thuds followed as the sentries at the entrance of the Sound Village were all eliminated, collapsing limply to the ground. Don't kill them? Gin Ichimaru's voice came from behind the mask. Muzan Kibutsuji walked into the village from the main road, his black cane slowly and rhythmically tapping the bricks on the ground, like a crisp drumbeat at the opening of a performance, awakening every audience member in the darkness. Satoru Hanafuji followed closely behind, holding an umbrella earnestly. Although his fear of sunlight had been overcome, this sacred sense of ritual was allowed to remain. Moreover, this sense of ritual would undoubtedly convey a powerful message to the outside world. We must keep them alive so they can tell others the story of the demons. Kaguya Nami, now dressed as the male, Muzan Kibutsuji, spoke with a slightly husky, magnetic voice. The chapter about demons is beginning to unfold little by little. We need more survivors to reveal the secrets of demons to the world, to make them understand that unknown terrors lurk in the darkness. Plot, prologue, setup, climax, curtain call, twist, Gin Ichimaru thought to himself. He roughly understood the rhythm that President Nami preferred, but he wasn't sure which part of the play was currently in, and tonight's play seemed to hide an eeriness different from usual. The chairman said Orochimaru is a rare madman in this world, and madmen can see truths that ordinary people cannot. Gin Ichimaru seemed to sense something was amiss and blurted out, Orochimaru has seen us, even if he can't contact us yet. Mayuri Kuratsuchi brought a gift today. If that remains are left behind and connected to these survivors who have seen demons, Orochimaru might notice something strange. Yes, he will. I have high hopes for Orochimaru, Muzan Kibutsuji grinned, revealing his perfectly white teeth. Explosive, action-packed anime aren't my type. I prefer gradual, layered progression and resistance. In the depths of dark despair, if there truly is a light to save the world, I hope it's not just a passionate roar, but also cold, rational thought. The passionate roar refers to whom? It's self-evident. Cold, rational thought is even more precious, but who can bear this heavy burden? Director Kaguya Nami already had her chosen candidates in mind. Black Zetsu was the obvious choice. Orochimaru was also an exceptional choice. Gin Ichimaru understood the subtext in Kaguya Nami's words. He deeply mourned Orochimaru's future and fate, though he didn't say it aloud. It's truly an honor for Orochimaru to be chosen by the chairman. Yes, in a deep, dark abyss where the truth is hidden, in a world of lies where everyone is deceived, there are always one or two heroes who glimpse the truth. They try to pierce the color of the sky and awaken the world that is gradually falling into lies. This will undoubtedly add more color to my script, allowing the core of the story to be constantly refined and sublimated. Kaguya Nami's eyes emitted a strange, scarlet light. He gently stroked his exquisitely handsome demon face and said softly, I will leave him the clues and hints. How much he can figure out is up to him. I'm really looking forward to the day when Orochimaru and Black Zetsu meet and exchange clues. Gin Ichimaru was speechless. He imagined that spectacular scene in his mind and had to admit that he was also tempted. No wonder Mayuri Kuratsuchi was a die-hard fan of the chairman. With these endless routines and scripts, this damnably charming villainous charisma, how many people could resist falling for it and ultimately becoming the henchman of the mastermind behind the scenes? At a street corner in Atagakure. Suddenly, a rumbling explosion rang out, billowing smoke and dust. A huge, winding centipede rose from the ground, smashing through houses and floating in midair. The centipede's head at the top was a strange baby face, its skin gleaming with a golden metallic luster, and a pair of bulging gray eyes staring menacingly at the ground. Steel rings and blades were connected to its head and neck. Its enormous body was structured like a centipede, with countless wriggling limbs moving through the air. Anyone who saw this bizarre and grotesque creature would feel a chill run down their spine, sensing an inhuman malice permeating the air. The silent night was torn apart. On the street, four little ones with different appearances stared in horror and confusion at the monster that had suddenly appeared before them, their ears filled with chilling breaths. Can you tell me where the lab is? I think I'm a little lost. A pitch-black ghost moon mask came into their view. Bonus chapter tonight. Still writing. A bit slow. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 I will offer you to Lord Muzan. The mask, as black as night, was emblazoned with a crimson crescent moon, vivid as blood, abruptly catching the eye. Combined with the centipede-like baby face atop its head, it was truly like encountering a ghost on a dark road. It nearly gave anyone a heart attack. The four children, Sakuan, Teyuaya, Kidamaru, and Shijirabo, all paled instantly. Their thin, petite figures were barely bigger than that baby face. They turned their heads simultaneously, their pupils reflecting the demon moon mask, causing the pores on their cheeks to shrink into granular bumps. This thing floating in the sky? Orochimaru-sama never taught them this. Their brains momentarily froze. The sound 4, still in school, lacked experience, quick reflexes, and sufficient courage and training. In that instant, they couldn't answer the question posed by the demon mask. Killing intent? A kind of killing intent, yet seemingly thicker and more tangible, a direct, soul-crushing oppression enveloped the surrounding air, weighing heavily on the four children, rendering them immobile and unable to resist. The four of them froze on the spot, their eyes instinctively glancing in the same direction. Mayuri Kuratsuchi grinned, letting out an exaggerated laugh, while the Jizo statue above them echoed the terrifying cries of an infant. Mayuri Kuratsuchi vanished from the spot. Jizo slammed through the wall of a nearby house, like a ferocious centipede scaling the rock, quickly following in a certain direction, leaving ripples in the air. We're saved? Jirabo's jaw trembled. That monster went to the lab. Teyuya swallowed hard. What was that thing? Just now, I felt completely unable to move. If I moved, I would die. Kidamaru opened his mouth, breathing heavily. Sakuan felt a chill run down his spine. The man wearing the Oni-moon mask possessed the same terrifying aura as Orochimaru, and now, that man was heading towards Orochimaru's lab. The four of them looked at each other, their feet rooted to the spot, standing motionless, staring at the dark sky, waiting in silence. Who knows when Lord Orochimaru will return? On the nearby street, Kimimaro, who had just had a vial of blood drawn from himself, hadn't even had time to stop the bleeding when he saw a roof beam collapse, shattered stones raining down, and a twisted, bloated centipede flying overhead. Kimimaro was completely bewildered, almost thinking he'd drawn too much blood, causing insufficient blood supply to his brain and a hallucination. No. Kimimaro snapped back to reality, two bone spikes erupting from his elbows like knives and swords. He leaped, cleaving the broken roof beam, flipping and landing on the roof, his eyes cold and fierce, his brow furrowed as he gazed into the night. Halt! Kimimaro locked onto a strange, shadowy figure. The man was shrouded in a black robe, wearing a mask, a sword at his waist, one hand constantly resting on the hilt, which was embedded with a series of eyeballs. The man walked at a measured pace, exuding an eerie and chilling aura. Behind him lay a street stained crimson with blood, the corpses of several sound ninja who had blocked his path slashed into pieces, scattered gruesomely and horribly across the ground. You called me? The voice beneath the Oni-moon mask was deep and chilling, as if a blade were cutting into one's throat. Kimimaro felt a sharp pain in his throat. He stared intently at the demon mask before him, but suddenly, a chilling dread washed over him. Out of the corner of his eye, the eyeballs embedded in the hilt of his sword had all blinked at him simultaneously. Those eyeballs were moving? The sword was alive. Never one for fear, he met those eyes that were staring at him intently. A chill ran through his skull, and Kimimaro's scalp tingled. You told me to stop? A sharp, razor-sharp voice repeated the question, followed by a chilling, menacing laugh. Your hands grow bones, in the shape of swords? A truly enviable ability. Kakashibo's swords were forged from his own flesh and blood. And the Shikatsu Myaku, corpse bone pulse, allows one to manipulate their own bones to forge swords. In a way, this was the ability Kakashibo craved most, so much so that he couldn't bear to kill the boy before him. Kimimaro keenly sensed the oddity in Kakashibo's words. The other seemed completely unfamiliar with the renowned Shikatsu Myaku. I'll give you one chance to draw your sword against me. If you satisfy me, I'll introduce you to Lord Muzan. Otherwise, Kakashibo raised his hand and removed his mask, revealing a face with 6 eyes, demonic and monstrous. 3 pairs of Sharingan eyes, arranged vertically side by side, rotated in unison, simultaneously locking onto the horrified Kimimaro. A terrifying, overwhelming killing intent erupted from him, sinister and chilling. Otherwise, you'll die along with the bones in your body. It wasn't the killing intent a human could unleash, it was the chilling aura emanating from a demon that had devoured countless living beings, its body and soul seemingly intent on devouring its prey. Is this guy even human? Kimimaro's expression changed drastically, his skin crawling like needles. He recalled hearing Orochimaru mention demon in the lab a few days ago. Orochimaru had gone out to retrieve a demon for research, but now, Orochimaru hadn't returned yet, and the demon might have come knocking first. A sudden realization struck Kimimaro. He felt he might have recognized Kakashibo's true identity. He gritted his teeth, leaping forward, using his body to propel himself forward. He twisted his waist, causing his forearms to swing, and the blades thrusting from his elbows sliced through the air with a piercing shriek. In an instant, the air was filled with a hissing sound of cutting. The stark white bone swords rained down, a dense, impenetrable barrier blocking all of Kakashibo's escape routes. Very good, but this is far from enough. Kakashibo gripped the hilt with one hand, his wrist flicking slightly, his shoulder lowering and elbow dropping. The images reflected in his 6 Sharingan eyes overlapped, instantly turning the trajectory of the bone swords in the air into a discontinuous slideshow. So, Dai? Moon-breathing first form, Dark Moon, Night Palace. A sword draw, an Iato slash, the blade, like a magnificent moon, gleamed with cold light, forming a continuous line, a crescent-shaped arc that spun, slicing through the net of bone blades in an instant. A streak of cold light shot straight towards Kimimura's chest. Blood splattered, his chest split open, and his ribs snapped cleanly. Kimimura was sent flying backward, spinning halfway through the air, his face stained crimson with blood splattered from his chest. Yet his eyes remained bright, fixed on Kakashibo. His spine trembled like a python, and a vertebra was silently ripped out, slick with his own blood, still hot from his mid-air flip, and lashed out like a whip, piercing Kakashibo's heart. How? Kimimura crashed heavily to the ground, his ribs shattered, his heart gushing blood, its beat growing weaker and weaker. The color in his eyes faded, but he paid no heed, coughing up blood as he laughed, the 2 red dots between his brows stained even more vividly by the blood. How? Kakashibo remained motionless, letting the bone whip pierce his heart like a knife. He looked down at Kimimura, whose heart was about to stop beating, and licked his cold, indifferent lips. A decent strike. I will offer you to Lord Muzan. Kakashibo slowly pulled the bone sword from Kimimura's heart. A little too late. That's all for today. See you all tomorrow at 5 p.m. Chapter 124 Injecting Demon Blood, the 12 Demon Moons Resurrected? The sound of a heart scraping against a sharp blade was teeth grinding. Flesh and blood, mixed with streaks of blood, were slowly pulled out along with blood-stained bones. The visual effect was something no ordinary person could pull off. Kimimura's eyes gradually faded to gray, as if he were seeing a terrifying, unbelievable hallucination. It seemed he was about to die. Lord Orochimaru, I can no longer be your vessel. What a pity. Kimimura muttered unconsciously, uttering his last words as a human. Orochimaru? He can't save you. What you need is Lord Muzan. Kakashibo walked over, squatted down, and forcefully thrust the blood-stained bone sword in his hand back into Kimimura's spine. His words were cold and unquestionable. When you awaken again, you will remember that demons cannot be killed so easily. And then, your life will belong to Lord Muzan. Behind him, the sound of metal striking the ground came, sometimes crisp, sometimes dull, thump thump thump, like the echo of a heart beating in the chest. Lord Muzan. Kakashibo turned and knelt on one knee, pressing his hand down on the hilt of his sword, his head sinking deep into the ground. Kimimura's eyelids were too heavy to lift, and he could only barely make out a cold cane resting on the ground through his slits. A winding red line was tattooed on the cane, splitting the blackness in two. Is it him, the human you've set your sights on? The magnetic, slightly hoarse voice betrayed no emotion. Are you sure you want to use this precious opportunity to turn a complete stranger into a demon? Kakashibo lowered his head, reciting his lines accurately, word by word. Yes, this human's courage and ability are worthy of being turned into a demon. Perhaps one day, he can become a candidate for the 12 demon moons, filling Muzan-sama's direct ranks. How interesting. In that case, I grant your request and bestow upon him a drop of precious demon blood, but I cannot guarantee his survival. Kakashibo, Kibutsuji Muzan, stepped towards Kimimura, crouching down slightly. A drop of blood strangely condensed between his index fingers, staining the edge of his fingertip. He extended his index finger and pressed it against Kimimura's brow, his nail cutting a vertical line between the red dot on Kimimura's forehead. The eerie, lifelike black blood seeped into the crack. Survive. Remember the name of your future master, Muzan Kibutsuji. Only when you believe you have the ability to become a candidate for one of the 12 demon moons will you be qualified to hear my summons again and come to my side. Black blood seeped into Kimimura's brow, into his skull, into his blood vessels, into his muscles and bones, spreading like a drop of ink falling into clear water, silently staining every organ, every inch of his body, every cell with the color of a demon. His broken ribs, wreathed in a chilling demonic aura, healed rapidly. His heart pounded, and a dark vertical line appeared between the two red dots on Kimimura's brow, adding a touch of malevolent eeriness to his already cold appearance. You have discovered a human with the potential to become one of the 12 demon moons. You can choose to use his body to revive one of the 12 demon moons. The current body can be used to revive Kagaku, the upper rank 6, lightning demon. You can choose to fully revive him, or inject the lightning demon's power into a new candidate. A prompt suddenly appeared in her mind. And Kaguya Nami was slightly taken aback, then realized that this was the true purpose of the Kibutsuji Musen identity card. Her previous choice to use Kakashibo's card combined with the clone's resurrection method was indeed a bit extravagant. Kimimaro, interesting. Will you use yourself to resurrect Kagaku, or will you use Kagaku to fulfill your wish? Kaguya Nami narrowed her eyes. This question was effortless for her. Whether considering the close blood ties of the original owner or the script's arrangement, it was clearly the answer. A drop of black blood emerged from Kibutsuji Musen's fingertip. This drop vaguely intertwined with some strange and peculiar breath, and he once again pierced Kaguya Kimimaro's forehead. The vertical line between the latter's brows cracked open, bearing the marks of time, like a charred lightning mark, with a red dot on each side. With 2 drops of demon blood injected directly, Kimimaro fell into deep coma. Veins bulged and twisted on his face, black lines appeared on his bones, and his breathing sounded like thunder. Don't disappoint me, Kimimaro. You are the best gift I left for Orochimaru, and of course, the greatest gift I bestow upon you. Your remaining life will not end hastily. Musen Kibutsuji sincerely prayed for his clan brother, and offered his blessings. Duh. After crushing the throat of a sound ninja, Mayuri Kuratsuchi lowered his hand and tossed a corpse aside. Beside Mayuri lay a pile of sound ninja corpses. Except for the last one whose throat he had crushed, all the others were a strange purplish black, their faces contorted in convulsive twists, a horrifying sight. The air was thick with particulate poison gas. The Jizo of ashes swam overhead, tearing open the roof and creating a gaping hole. A terrifying, infant-like face peered down, swallowing the corpses whole, chewing and digesting them completely. After eliminating those blocking his path, Mayuri Kuratsuchi passed through several dark passages until a winding, downward-facing tunnel suddenly appeared before him, resembling the smooth esophagus of a python. Iron doors lined both sides of the tunnel, suggesting a prison cell, yet also an experimental research facility. Mayuri sniffed the air. The distinctive smell of formaldehyde filled the air, a smell he knew and loved dearly. A massive laboratory designed like a prison. Mayuri casually pushed open an iron door and peered inside. He saw rows of glass nutrient tanks used for live experiments arranged in the room. Some of the experimental tanks were empty and stopped operating, while others were running, containing curled up, anesthetized live subjects, with bubbles occasionally bubbling up from their nasal passages into the nutrient solution. Mayuri Kuratsuchi took out an experimental log with great interest. It meticulously recorded various experimental procedures and their corresponding results. Each log essentially corresponded to a specific experimental topic, and each topic required a considerable number of live subjects. The live subject nutrient tanks in the same room served as control groups for that research. The log in Mayuri's hand, titled Record of Experiments on Human Body Activation Research, documented their research on human body activation, which seemed to be at a certain stage. Although outdated, it contains many brilliant ideas and creative concepts. Interesting. Mayuri considered recruiting Orochimaru into the Technology Development Bureau. But for now, it seemed she had to abandon the idea. After all, Orochimaru was someone the chairman had chosen, and he would play a very important role in the future plot. After a moment's thought, Mayuri Kuratsuchi took out a neatly folded human skin from a corpse, unfolded it, and threw it into one of the empty culture tanks. Gushing liquid entered the corpse's mouth, inflating it from the inside, making it appear from a distance as if Orochimaru himself were submerged in the nutrient tank. Suddenly, a living being in one of the nutrient tanks abruptly opened its eyes, the glass of the tank shattered instantly, liquid splashed everywhere, and sharp red crystals shot out from the liquid. Chapter 125 The Bizarre Ghost Crystal Release, Blazing Thorns Technique. From the shattered nutrient tank, amidst the splattering liquid, a crimson thorn shot out, bloodthirsty and insidious, striking towards Mayuri Kuratsuchi's brow with lightning speed. Oh? Mayuri Kuratsuchi tilted his head, his feet nimbly shifting, and with a flick of his wrist, the swooping, crashing Jizo's statue tore through the laboratory roof, revealing half a baby's face. Diorn leaped out of the nutrient tank, staring in horror at the baby's head emerging from the hole in the roof, as if simultaneously hearing a piercing cry. What the hell is that? Diorn blurted out, her mind racing. Isn't it a demon? Mayuri Kuratsuchi raised his hand, his voice sinister and eerie beneath the mask. Don't destroy my experimental equipment. Your experimental equipment? Yuren froze, unable to think, when she saw the baby's face above her, connected to a centipede-like body, suddenly vanish into thin air, transforming into a three-pronged dagger, falling vertically to the ground. The monster had turned into a dagger? Ninjutsu? Forbidden technique? Could it be an illusion? Yuren looked up at the hole in the ceiling. The beams and wires were smashed, crackling with electricity. Shards of rock and charred wood rained down, reminding her of the reality of what had just happened. She stared intently at the eerie man before her. The black demon moon mask was indescribably sinister, and on the golden hilt of the sword was a face resembling an infant. Mayuri Kuratsuchi raised his hand to catch the falling sword, its three thorny spikes aimed at Yuren. He said coldly, hiding yourself in a nutrient tank isn't a good idea. It makes it hard for me to tell if you're alive or a living corpse waiting to be dissected. Yuren didn't know how to answer. She only knew that in Orochimaru's research institute, the living and the living were always indistinguishable. Orochimaru-sama will definitely be interested in your strange abilities. I'll put you in a nutrient tank and study you when he returns. Gulian laughed, her body leaning forward and instantly shifting from stillness to a sprint, like a ferocious female leopard. In 2 or 3 steps, she closed the distance with Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Crystals condensed in her hands, tearing through the air and unleashing streaks of red light that slashed towards Mayuri's body. How? Mayuri laughed, a dangerous glint in his eyes. He pushed off with his feet, not only not dodging but accelerating forward. As he moved, he swung his sword, a Shiseiji Jizo, through the air, the continuous flashes of light accompanied by the mournful howl of a baby's cry, slicing through the countless crystal thorns. He suddenly raised his knee and leg, leaping high over Gulian's head like a ballerina. His upper body had already passed her, but his other leg twisted strangely, slamming into Gulian's chest. As a scientist, modifying one's own body into something inhuman is basic practice. Since his resurrection into the new world, Mayuri Kuratsuchi has taken this to an extreme. Now, not only can his prosthetic body twist at will, but each joint also contains countless hidden mechanisms. Unlike Gin Ichimaru, Byaku Ayakatsuki, and Ritsuya Hana, who are purely combat-oriented squad leaders, the former harbor a condescending disdain and rejection of modern ninjutsu, Mayuri Kuratsuchi displays remarkable humility and greed for knowledge. Like a sponge frantically absorbing all the knowledge and abilities of the new world. At this moment, his body has undergone various modifications, his body is covered in parasitic tumors and wriggling bacteria, and his seemingly ordinary eyes conceal terrifying compound eyes, 2 pupils within one eye socket, which can be switched at will. Left eye socket, his own eye plus Sharingan, overlapping. Right eye socket, his own eye plus Byakugan, overlapping. This made the world he saw completely different from ordinary people. It was a world where the focus could be adjusted and the playback slowed down at any time. Honglian's seemingly swift figure appeared to him as slow as a snail's pace. The heel of his shoe slammed into Honglian's chest with a bizarre, seamless motion. Then the heel split, and a scalpel, crawling with parasites and bacteria, pierced straight through Honglian's chest, the blade precisely passing through her ribs and reaching her heart. The impact wasn't powerful, but the sharp pain in her chest made Honglian's hands and feet go cold. She gritted her teeth, and crimson crystals spread throughout her body, attempting to envelop her in them. Too late. He spun around, standing behind Honglian, and the blade of the Shiseiji Jizo lightly pierced the back of Honglian's neck. A baby's cry seemed to echo directly in Honglian's soul. Don't be afraid, I won't kill you. Mayuri Kuratsuchi sheathed his sword and stood lightly behind Yuren, saying, I just want to make a little modification to you, it won't hurt. The terrifying neurotoxin spread through every cell in Yuren's body with each breath, and Yuren felt a chill run from the soles of her feet to her head. The way this person behind her spoke was so much like Lord Orochimaru. Lord Orochimaru often said similar things to those living beings, and most of those living beings later became scraps on the dissection table. What do you want to do? Yuren's breathing became rapid, her limbs began to stagnate and become paralyzed, her muscles and bones stiffen uncontrollably, only her brain and eyes could still move. Don't be nervous, I'll be quick, there won't be any problems. Just consider it a gift I left for Orochimaru by taking this laboratory, Mayuri Kuratsuchi explained, silently adding in his mind, and a test. Mayuri Kuratsuchi had perfectly learned Kaguya Nami's character, Taking something from someone else always requires reciprocation. It's the most basic quality of being human. The meaning of this test, as the name suggests, was a small assessment of Orochimaru's technical level by Mayuri Kuratsuchi. Although it was impossible to recruit Orochimaru into the Seireitei's Technology Development Bureau for the time being, it didn't prevent Mayuri from making plans and preparations for the future. Strange noises came from inside the house. That night, the Sound Village fell. According to surviving witnesses, they were suddenly attacked by demons. The leader of the demons always stood under an umbrella, carrying a cane, strolling leisurely through the village. He didn't kill anyone, the killers were his subordinate demons. Among them, a six-eyed demon was the most ferocious, leaving corpses flying wherever he went, none intact. The most morbid and terrifying demon was the one who controlled a monster that resembled a hybrid of a centipede and a human. He stayed in the laboratory for a long time, from which strange and eerie noises could be heard from time to time. When he left, the entire laboratory was empty. There was also a particularly eerie demon. Although her figure was shrouded in a black robe, the rise and fall of her chest and two braided pigtails indicated that she was a female demon. This female ghost's behavior was completely different from other ghosts. She neither killed nor harmed anyone, instead, she leisurely followed the paths left by other ghosts, mysteriously smoothing the wounds of those who were injured but not dead with her sword. It was incomprehensible. Yet no one was grateful to her. All the survivors recalled that scene with trepidation, gritting their teeth in certainty that the female ghost must have taken something important from them, such as lifespan or soul. In short, tonight, the Sound Village was shrouded in a bloody and eerie night. All the survivors prayed anxiously for the dawn, desperately hoping for Lord Orochimaru's return. 2 more chapters before 10 p.m. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.